This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to a spotty start to our afternoon drive. It didn't take long this afternoon to find our favourite little cat who is sleeping away his full tummy after a meal over the last 24 hours. So he's a very content cat, and he found himself a nice little bit of shade that's just very close, actually, to the camp more than anything else. It took me about all of 2 minutes to find him this afternoon, which was very, very nice. Now, my name is Tristan, and it is a very, very warm welcome to you, and I hope that you're going to enjoy the afternoon with us. I've got Fergus with me on camera this afternoon, and well, we're live and interactive, so hashtag SafariLive on Twitter and the YouTube chat stream should you want to ask any questions or get involved in any way possible. Now, Astana is a full cat. He's obviously got a belly. You can see it's quite swollen and he's panting a little bit, so it's a big rise and fall of that tummy at the moment, and that's because of the meal that he had. So for those of you that weren't watching the last 24 hours, basically he stole a impala carcass from Tundi. It wasn't that much left of it, but he devoured that through the course of yesterday afternoon, last night, and then this morning he finished it up, and then he was making his way towards the right. Now, it sounds like, sorry, we'll carry on with that a little bit later. It sounds like we've got a few audio problems, so we're just going to go onto our tech loop quickly, and we'll see you all shortly. Well, let's try this all again. We are back live, and so it is a good afternoon to all of you and a very warm welcome to a beautiful day here in South Africa. As you can see, we're starting with a bang with our favorite little prince, Hosana, who's having a really good nap at the moment. He's taking it very, very easy, and I suppose why not? We had a busy morning this morning. Not only did he finish his breakfast, but he also ran into a pride of lions and then had to bypass them to come and sit at his favorite pan and then find a place to rest. So it's been a busy, busy afternoon. Now, my name is Tristan, in case we didn't get that when we did it the first time, and on camera I have got Fergus this afternoon, and we are coming to you live from South Africa, which means that you can get involved, you can ask questions, you can send any comments that you've got, and you can do that via two platforms. You can do that on the hashtag SafariLive or the YouTube chat stream. Now, hopefully this afternoon we are going to get a show from Hosana at some point. He's kind of wandered up towards the lodge. In fact, we are right at the lodge. It's quite amazing how relaxed this cat is. You'll see that the lodge is just here. So this is the back of house for Vuyatela Camp. This is where kind of the staff deliveries come in and all those kind of things, and so he's decided he's just going to come and relax by everybody and see the ongoings of the back of house area, which is pretty typical for him because he's quite funny. So, you know, he's sitting here and having a bit of a rest, and I think he's just waiting for the sun to get a little bit lower before he's then going to get up and start maybe then either going back to the pan for a drink or potentially hunting. So while we wait for him to actually start getting active and be patient and allow Hosana a little bit of a nap, let's send you across to Sydney so he can say good afternoon to all of you.
It is a very, very beautiful afternoon, and welcome to the beginning of the afternoon safari. My name is Sydney, and I am with David, who is my camera operator. We are both going to be with you this afternoon, and I hope we are all going to enjoy a lot of our natural environment here by the Juma Game Reserve this afternoon. My plan this afternoon is very easy. Earlier on this morning, on a guided walk, I managed to pick up a lion pride. And these lions, they are somewhere probably resting in the same area. I am going to look for them. And for your questions and comments, you can follow us on Twitter, hashtag SafariLive. You can also follow us on YouTube chat stream. So I'll be looking for these lions right here, as I can see that they are somewhere hiding. The sun is very much hot at the moment, and lions and the sun, they don't get along. Only when the weather is very good is when they will go up and down. But this morning, I picked up a sign that these lions, they are doing some hunting activities, and they were all very hungry. So it's very much difficult to miss the Nkuhuma pride because there's about 11 of them. So it's a lot of them. When they're resting, they're just everywhere. So there's some impalas here I can see from where I am, very far deep in the thick bushes, right in the middle of those bushes. But the lions, they don't really prefer the animals less than 180 to 550 kilograms. So they prefer to take down anything larger than 550 kilograms. Although animals such as the wild warthogs has been recorded caught by these kind of predators. But the special preference is something very big. Imagine the Nkuhuma pride is consisted of 11 individuals. So an impala to them is nothing. So what I like the most about these kind of predators is that they don't just chase. First, they calculate the weight of a prey. And if the weight of a prey is less than the number of individuals in terms of the calculation of the diet, they don't take it because they know otherwise they are going to run business to loss. They are going to lose energy that they're not going to get back after feeding. So the impala just decided to leave. So now, let's go back to Tristan. Tristan already is very lucky with my favorite cat, Hosana.
Well, I think you and many others, Sydney, have him as a favorite on their list. He really is a special little cat, and we've been, once again, fortunate to see him as much as we have in the past few days. Now, Sydney was talking about the Nkuhuma pride, and yesterday I gave an update about the Nkuhumas and the Telematis and the Evokers, and I was mistaken, which I'm very sorry about. So I was live at the time, and then I was over kind of listening to the radio, and I didn't get the full end of the story and completely mixed it all up. And so the Nkuhuma Pride actually didn't have a run-in with the Telematis or the Evokers yesterday. They actually, funny enough, were in Koro yesterday, and they came through Torchwood last night and then ended up here. So they didn't actually engage with the Telematis in any way, or the Evokers. Apparently what happened was the Telematis, 2 of the 5, ended up going close to the boys, and a full-on fight between the 3 boys ensued as they tried to fight for a dominance over one another, to be able to then mate with those 2 females. So that's what happened with them. So I'm quite glad that the Nkuhumas are here. What's interesting with them is that their movement lately has been quite intriguing to me. The Nkuhumas, since I've been here, have had a very set pattern when they moved around. They used to go from Buffelshoek, basically through the western side of Djuma, sometimes mill about in the east, and then they would turn and they would go off to Simbambili, and then they would kind of hang around there, and then they would come back again, and they might come through the central parts, and then back up into Buffelshoek, and then occasionally they would go into Torchwood. But lately, their movements are very difficult to predict. They can seem to be going in all directions. They go up, down, round. They often are splintered out, and it's really quite difficult to actually work out where the Nkuhuma Pride will end up next. They seem to just go wherever they kind of want. From Nkoro to Simbambili, Elephant Plains, and even Londolozi is a long way, and so they seem to be roaming all over the place. And with the sticks seemingly pushing further south into Malamala at the moment, I suppose it frees it up for them to be able to do that. Now, I've just noticed something on Hosana which is quite cool. It's not exact, but if you look on the left-hand side of his body there, on his shoulder, you'll see that there's a spot, and then it's just kind of like a semicircle of spots above it. So there's like a little bar and then little spots above it, and it almost looks like a little paw print that he's got on his right shoulder. So that'll be a nice little spot pattern if we ever see him in a bush and want to know who he is. It almost looks like he's got a little pug mark on his right shoulder, which is very, very cool to see. I've only just noticed it, to be honest, and it was just the angle that he's lying in. Obviously it's not a leopard pug mark because there's 5 toes, so he's got like a little otter pug mark on his shoulder there, but it's a nice little set of spots. It kind of looks like a little foot has been put on him and inked onto his side. Maybe he's got a little tattoo. You know how people get tattoos of various different things? Maybe that's like the Chinese paw print for Hosana. Who knows? I'm talking absolute nonsense, of course. There's no such thing, but anyway. Now it's going to be interesting. I'm intrigued as to what he's going to get up to today, because what amazes me about this cat is he's having a serious sleep. There's quite a lot of movement behind him. There's a lot of people going in and out, and cars going up and down, and movement around him, and he's completely unfazed by it all. You can see he's even got his back to that area at the moment, and I'm intrigued as to where his kind of next movement is going to be. He obviously has been at the pan already today. He had a little drink there, and then he wandered up this way, and now normally when he's been at the pan, he either sits there for the whole day, or he goes round the camp and he goes towards Galago Pan and then shifts down towards Quarantine, Philemon's, and then back towards the pan again. That's kind of his general circular route. But today he seems as though he's going to cut out Galago Pan altogether and maybe move up towards Quarantine, or I wonder if he's going to go back down to the pan later in the afternoon, try and catch maybe some of the nyalas or impalas that might come down to drink. Even though he's got a full belly, remember that leopards and lions are very opportunistic animals, and they'll take any opportunity they can to hunt. And so where he's sitting right now, this is the nyala's favorite place in the late afternoons. You find all the nyalas that are coming out of the bush start heading towards the camp, and they know that this is an area that they can kind of walk through. And so you drive here on any given afternoon when there's no predator, and you will find some nyala in this particular section, sometimes even impala and wildebeest that walk around here. So he's actually not in the worst spot to be able to hunt this afternoon. I just don't know if he's going to be doing much. He seems as though he's a rather sleepy cat. You can even see he's dreaming a little bit, and his paw is flicking from time to time, and I suppose I can't blame him. He's been a busy boy the last few days. Now, Neen, Tingana, I'm sure I actually have a funny feeling he might be a treehouse dam. Now, this morning when I was sitting in the tent, I actually had a wonderful morning in the tent, to be honest. I had the lions come and drink at the pan, which was very, very nice, and then I was sitting there, and the whole morning I had a cacophony of leopard calls coming from very close to the tent and then bypassed the tent, lots of squirrels alarm calling, and then it just kind of slowly shifted southwards, and it sounded like it was just on the western side of Quarantine, Mobile South. And generally, if that's Tingana that's walked that route, then Treehouse Dam is where he should have ended up by this afternoon. So I wouldn't be surprised if Sydney checks there that he finds Tingana in that area. But he's around. I mean, he made a lot of noise last night. He was calling quite a bit. Now, I believe a lot of you were saying that it sounded like there was Hukamuri and Tingana around the place last night, and two different leopards calling. I don't know, to be honest. I mean, I didn't hear it. I know that there was some audio, the clips that people saved out, and I just haven't had a chance yet to get to them to go and have a little listen. But I mean, it could have been why Tingana walked that western side, just to try and kind of protect that boundary and make sure that Hukamuri knows that he is back as the dominant individual here. Hosana was completely unfazed, because I was watching every time the leopard called just to see what Hosana's reaction was, because I obviously could see the screen where James was live, or when he wasn't even, and I could see that Hosana was completely unfazed. And if it was Hukamuri, I think he would have been a lot more kind of nervous about what was going on, and definitely not as relaxed as he was sitting up there and eating his carcass, and he seemed fairly chilled about everything. So it must have been Tingana, but I wonder if he maybe didn't just push Hukamuri out a little bit again and just say, right, this is my area, stay off and stay out of my place. So he's here somewhere on our particular area this evening, and if Hosana really is a very, very sleepy, we might go a little bit later around the sunset period and try and see if we can maybe find Tingana. But oh, look at that, he's going to roll onto his back. That is a content cat right there. He's positioned his back legs nicely. Does he not look comfortable? That is as happy could be right now. I think little Hosana has found himself the perfect spot to have a nap. Right, well, while we admire Hosana's sleeping ability and his ability to find a comfy spot, let's send you back across to Sydney and find out if he's had any luck with those lions.
I have got one of the very much interesting small antelope. Look at that. This is beautiful. A steenbok. And this is a male steenbok. Why I'm saying that? Because I can see the horns. The male carry horns, whereas the females don't carry horns. You can see that this steenbok is trying to use the ears in order to pick up my audio. So the steenboks, normally you see them in pairs. You'll see both male and females feeding together because they are monogamous. By monogamous, I'm referring to the animals who are pair-bonded. They are partners for life. But some of these pair-bonded species has been recorded unfaithful. It is not guaranteed that these kind of monogamous species mate for life. Some, they do sometimes mate with some of the members not part of their families. The steenbok has got very, very big eyes. And this big eyes tells me that they can be able to see from a very long distance. Look at that. Look at that pupil. That is quite a very big pupil compared to the size of an animal. Mostly, if you look at the steenboks in the ears, you will see it's like a leaf vein. That is how I always distinguish between the steenboks and the duikers. So the steenboks has got a very interesting, unusual behavior where after they defecate, they cover their own droppings. And this is the only buck who does that. It's the only antelope who does that. So mostly these kind of behaviors, we see them done by animals such as cats. You will see they defecate and then use their front legs to cover their own droppings. It's very much difficult to come across the droppings for the steenbokkies. Jenica, the smaller one is the steenbok. The duiker is a little bit larger than the steenbok. So, but both steenbokkies and the duikers, they are more or less the same kind of a size preferred by Hosana. our famous predator in the area. I'm sure this steenbok knows Hosanna very well because where we are now is not very far away from the pen where Hosanna is predating on most occasions. Sinek, the male and female steenbokkies are more or less the same size. The only difference you're going to notice is the horns. The female impalas, they don't carry horns at all, whereas the males, they carry horns. But when it comes to the size, they are more or less the same size. Yes, males, they look a little bit larger than the females, but size, there is no big gap. So these kind of antelopes, they are very much well equipped. If you look at their hoofs at the beginning of their hoofs by the toes is very much thin, which gives them an adaptability to be able to dig, as they sometimes dig and eat some of the tubers under the ground, and they also pick up some of the roots. So they are very much well equipped. You can see there is not even worried at all about our presence, but it's looking all the time to the other side, not too sure if maybe the partner is around here or not. We are very lucky to see the steenboks. The steenbokkies, they are very much rare to see. This is maybe my second, third or fourth steenbok since I have arrived here. It's not something I'm seeing very often. The duikers, I have seen them a lot, but steenbok is difficult. So, Alistair, I didn't copy your question very nicely. If you can repeat that question for me. Alistair, that is true. The duikers here I have seen a lot more than the steenbokkies. And if you can check, the number of duikers caught by Hosanna and Tingana is a lot, but still every time I am seeing quite a lot of activities of duikers. So these kind of predators such as Hosanna and Tingana are very much needed in order to balance these kind of species. Steenbokkies are very much shy. So I normally see them late afternoon, just before it gets dark. So now let's go to Tristan, who got one of those animals who prefers this kind of, the size of animals as their prey.
Well, he does, although he's more a little duiker cat than he is a steenbok cat, so I suppose the steenbok's a little quick for him, and that's why he doesn't go after them nearly as much as maybe the duikers. It seems to be his favorite thing, or now he's starting to learn that he can throw his bulk around and steal from his sister, so that shall be interesting to see how much he does that over the course of the next few weeks and months. I'm really intrigued to see how our little leopard family story is going to play out, because at some point something's got to give. We can't just keep having this the way it is, or maybe we can, and maybe we're going to get proved wrong, and we'll have him staying around and eventually becoming the dominant boy around here, and Thandi will tolerate him. It would be very interesting. So Nancy, no, it doesn't seem like there's too many leopards on Djuma at the moment. If there were too many leopards, one can never have enough leopards. Let's just start there. No, I'm joking. Of course, in the environmental viewpoint, yes, you could, because then they could fight, and you know, there could be a lot of injuries that could have been caused and all those kind of things. So at the moment it doesn't seem like it, and I'll say why is that basically we've seen Thandi, she's had a spat with a few of the females that have been in this area before, so we know that she's physically confronted Kuchava, Shidulu and Shongile, and had a fight with all three of them, and has somehow established a boundary with all of them. So when too many leopards occur, then they will fight back, and they will start to try and sort themselves out. Nowadays, it seems in the female world, everybody's quite relaxed and quite settled with their boundaries at the moment. Within the males, while we do have Hosanna around, and he is bumping into Thandi and Klalamba and Tingana they are not perceiving him as a threat in any way. It's not like Hukamuri. If you look at Hukamuri and the response that Tingana will probably have to him, it would be vastly different to what he would have for Hosana. He sees Hukamuri as a threat to his territory, to his area, to his females, to his cubs, and he's going to be far more aggressive. And so if we had too many leopards here, we would see a lot more fighting as opposed to just social interactions. What we're seeing at the moment is just a circumstantial thing where we've got a female leopard with a cub that is come across a young male leopard before that cub was even born, and has spent time with him, has realized that he is not a threat, and probably in some way recognizes his scent. He's also not a big, strong, dominant male who's scent marking and imposing himself on her, and so she's quite fine to have him kind of cruising around here as long as he doesn't get too close towards the cub. I think if he went towards Kalamba, so Thandi would probably try and intercept and stop him. Tingana on the other side is very much the same. He's not seeing Hosana as a threat yet. He sees Hosana as basically a young male leopard. It's his son. He knows the scent. He knows who Hosana is, and Hosana is not big enough and strong enough to challenge him yet, and Tingana knows that. So every time they come together, there is in some ways Hosana displays a little bit of what would you call it? I forget the word now. What's the opposite of dominance, Ferg? Submissive. So submissive displays, and he'll chuff and he'll contact call. He's not vocalizing, he's not scent marking, and therefore Tingana is not seeing him as a threat, and so it doesn't really worry about him yet. But as he gets bigger and he gets stronger, and Tingana maybe sees him through the thickets and he appears a lot larger and bulkier, so that response is going to start changing. Also, as soon as we start to see females coming into estrus around this area, so when we start to see Shidulu, Thandi maybe moving around in this section, actually in an estrus cycle, that also might change then the perception that Tingana has on Hosana at the moment. So it's just, we're in a good circumstance at the moment in that everybody's in the right kind of place for them to interact. As soon as things change a little bit, so it's going to be interesting to see how it changes and how, you know, it develops as it goes. But I don't think we have too many leopards here. You know, there's lots of other reserves or lodges around the Sabi Sands that have very similar densities, and as long as the leopards themselves can define a territory, then generally it's okay. And it's interesting because the leopards here have very small territories. They're tiny. If you look at Tingana's territory, he probably at the moment is doing, I would say, maximum, I would say, is about 4,000 hectares, maybe 5,000 hectares. Let's call it 5,000 hectares, so 10,000 acres of territory. Now you take the shepherd's tree male, which is the big dominant male of the Mara Triangle, and you have a look at his territory. His territory is probably, I would say, at least 10 to 15 times the size of Tingana's territory currently, and that's all just to do with the density. So the density in the Mara Triangle is not as dense as here, and therefore Tingana pushes until he meets resistance, and then he confines himself to that area. He's able to find water, food, as well as females in that because of a high density of other animals as well as females. Whereas in the Mara Triangle, because of lack of food, water, and potentially mates, especially during the season when the migration is away, so that male leopard has had to expand his territory much bigger so that he can actually get to enough females and food and water. So it just depends on the area, and so you can never say you've got too many leopards. As long as there's food and water and there's the ability to find both of those as well as females, then a leopard will actually be, if there's a lot of that, then there will be quite a few leopards in that area, and they'll actually kind of set themselves up and mark out their territories. If they start to invade one another's territories, then yes, there will be aggression, and they will self-regulate themselves. Others will be killed, cubs will be killed, young males will be killed, females could potentially be killed, and that's how it kind of ends up. So, Romit, you know, these are always difficult questions to answer without ever seeing the two side by side. But Anderson is much bigger. There's no doubt about it that he is hands down one of the biggest leopards. And in comparison to Hosana, he's probably, I would say, you know, percentage-wise, at least 30% larger than what Hosana is. Much bigger shoulders, head, neck. Everything about Anderson is bigger than what Hosana is right now. And I mean, I've seen Hosana next to Tingana, and there is very clearly a size difference between the two of them. Hosana's got a long way to go until he can compete with those really big boys, and I've seen Anderson and Tingana together, and so I have a rough estimate of the size difference, but I can promise you that Hosana's not even in the same league. And there was a sighting recently of Tumba and Anderson together, and you can see just from the photographs, which can be sometimes misleading, but you can just see how much bulkier Anderson looks in comparison to Tumba. And these two young boys are really not in the same league at all. They're going to take a long time until they're going to be able to compete with the likes of Anderson. And I think it's for both of them would be best advised to stay clear of a dominant male leopard like Anderson or even Hukamuri. Hukamuri would be a major threat to both Hosana and Tumba, and that's why we saw that kind of movement from both of these young males during that period when Tingana was sick, with both males distributed when Tingana got sick, and Hosana's found his way back, but Tumba seems to be just kind of eking out existence between Anderson and Hukamuri and trying to just like walk that little fine line and balance himself through that sort of section and try and keep himself out of trouble, but which is not going well because he keeps bumping into both of them, and so he's going to have to find a way to get himself into his own area where he stops bumping into these random male leopards. But look at that, Hosana, you are not lying in a tree. You don't have to straddle the tree. It really is another story. So I suppose it's comfortable though. I mean, it's like us when you sit on the couch somewhere and you've got an ottoman, you put your feet up. I suppose that's exactly what this cat is doing. He's very content. There's a nice cool breeze that's blowing, and so I'm pretty sure for Hosana, he's very, very happy. Right, now we know that Hosana stole from Thandi recently, but he did make his own kill in the last week, and that was in the form of an animal that Sydney is currently looking at.
Look at that nyala. The ears are moving all the time. Nyalas and kudus, they both got big ears. And these big ears has got something to do with their feeding behavior, because they have to go and forage for the food deep in the thick bushes. So these kind of ears then collect a lot of sound from the predators, stalking them from a very long distance. It's very much rare to see the nyala alone as we are seeing now. Mostly you will see them working together as a group. Park, we have got a variety of antelopes here. Not too sure exactly how many species, but I know that we have got the nyalas, we have got the steenbokkies, we have got the duiker, we have got the kudus as well. So if you can count, it's quite a lot. So the stripes that we are seeing on this animal, they help in order to avoid detection by the predators, because it does break the body shape to confuse the predators. It's not easy for the predator to single out one animal from the group. And look at the tail. It's quite a very bushy tail. And when that tail is lifted, you will see a very bright, fluffy, white color, which then confuse the predators, because predators will mark that part during the chase, and soon as these animals approach the thick bushes, they lower the tail, and lowering the tail is going to match them with the surrounding. Those are all part of what is called crypsis. Is one of the strategies animals are using in order to avoid detection by the predator. Is keep listening all the time. So if you can count the number of stripes here from the side of the body, the females, normally they've got about 8 to 12 stripes, whereas the males, they've got up to 18 different stripes. The females don't carry horns, and their males, they've got horns. So the nyala males, they look completely different from the females. It's like it's a completely different species. They are very much hairy. They are equipped with a lot of fluffy hairs. If you look at the shape of the head, it's more or less the same as the kudu. Eddie, we do have some of the type of vegetation and the environment which does support the springboks. We have got different biomes here in South Africa. And here where we are, this is part of the savanna biome. And when you go to other areas, they are fynbos biome. Fynbos biome is consisted of some of the trees which are such as the proteas. And they are also part of the grassland. We do have the grassland biome and the desert biome. This kind of springboks you're talking about, they do prefer some of the parts here in South Africa where they is associated with quite a lot of harsh conditions. The springboks can survive the harsh conditions, and mostly we find them a lot by the desert areas. So that the nyalo just got disturbed and decided to run away. I saw chasing the scrubber, so I just missed that. So it is here in this drainage line where I am hoping to find some lions. So I'm just going to try and follow where that nyala went to, just to try and see if I can pick up some tracks, because these lions, presumably they are sleeping somewhere around here. So now let's go back to Tristan while I'm trying to find these lions for you.
Well, good luck, Sydney. I'm sure you'll find them. I'm sure they're lounging about somewhere. They were quite busy this morning. They seem to move around quite a bit, and hopefully they've now decided to lay down somewhere and have a bit of a rest. It interests me that I wonder what their kind of feelings are at the moment, or I suppose not feelings is the wrong thing, but what their attitude is towards the evokers and whether or not they're trying to avoid them, because Herbie was telling me that the tracks went from Torchwood, they went up Central North onto Hyena Road and then did a about turn and came straight south again. So I wonder if maybe, just maybe, the audio of those evokers calling from the north. Oh, bless you, Fergus. Are you alright there? Yes, Fergus got a bit of dust up his nose, a bit windy this afternoon. You're allergic to flat cats. I'm so sorry, Fergus. Hopefully some dogs will come in and cause havoc, and then you will be very happy. But I wonder if they hear these evokers at the moment and they just do an about turn and try and head the opposite direction in order to keep, those sub-adults safe, especially the sub-adult male. He's really in big trouble at the moment because, he's on his own. He's got no brothers or even coalition members that essentially could form from the pride, and that means that he's on his own once he does get kicked out, and so he's going to have to utilize his females for as long as possible and hope that he can somehow worm his way through between the evokers and find a coalition member at some point, like his previous counterpart from the Nkuhuma Pride. So those of you that don't know, the Nkuhuma Pride had a young male a while ago called Junior, and so Junior was a male that was born into the Nkuhuma Pride, and much like this young male, was on his own. He eventually ended up somehow getting himself all the way up towards Orpen Gate, which is northeast of where we are now, and found himself another male, which is pretty interesting because, a lot of the time people don't know that male lions, if they find another young male, can sometimes form coalitions together, and so he's formed a little coalition up there and is doing very well for himself. They've got a pride that they're mating with, in fact I think 2 prides that they're busy mating with at the moment, and seem to be surviving just fine, so hopefully that will be the same for Junior 2.0. So Minamu, it depends. How hard is it to form a coalition? I think it's variable. It depends on many factors that will dictate whether or not a lion can join with other lions and form coalitions. There's the Sausage Tree Pride is a prime example of that in the Mara. Is that for some reason this older male Kupuli is allowing these 2 younger males to mate, to do all these kind of things, and they're almost forming a coalition together. And he's undoubtedly much older than they are. I mean, he's at least 3 years older, and so theoretically he shouldn't be tolerating those males. He should have chased them out so that he can mate, but he probably in many respects realizes that in a lion dense area like the Masai Mara and the Mara Triangle, he's got very little chance of holding on to a prime territory around the Salt Lick with the Sausage Tree Pride and the Salt Lick females if he's by himself. And so joining up with those two boys means that he can form a bigger coalition and be a little bit more successful. Whereas maybe in other parts of Africa where there's not so many male lions, you might find a single male will happily rule over and chase those young males away and get rid of them. The other thing is that remember that two male lions together, even if they're at the age of 3.5, 4 years old, are a handful to one male. I mean, it's 2 against 1. The numbers game always helps, and so sometimes it's better just to make them your allies rather than your enemies. And you'll find that single male lions sometimes do this. I mean, there was also another pride in the Mara that did a similar thing. I've never really seen it here. I'm yet to see it take place in this particular part of South Africa, where young males are accepted by their dads. It seems for the most part here that we see the coalitions chasing out the young males, and then they have to move further afield. Now Mosana's having a bit of a hello boy, wakey. No, not yet, still too sleepy. Kathy, no, not as far as I know. The thing is that once lions go into the Kruger National Park, very few people will give them names, because it's not like us where we drive around the same places every single day. Oh, there's a little dwarf mongoose that's being very, very brave. Do you see it there, Fergus? I don't know if you will be able to see it. To the right of the stump. So to the right of the stump, and just go back there. There it is, on the top of the screen. So here's a little dwarf mongoose that is being very brave. Don't think you want to get too close to Asana. Even though he's a sleepy cat, you don't want to kind of get very close, because he could pounce on them. We saw yesterday with a squirrel how quick he can be. So as I was saying, so in Kruger they don't drive the same areas. A lot of the time there's a lot of people there that are self-drive, and they come to the Kruger every year, every 3 years, and so they don't recognize lions like we would here, where we see them almost daily, or we follow the progress of the prides. And so they don't really get coalition names that often, unless there is a private lodge that is in that area where there are guides that are working constantly. Then they sometimes give them a name, but I don't know of a name for them at all. I haven't heard it. There might be one, but it's very difficult to follow what goes on up there. There's a lot that happens in the Kruger, and so generally we follow a lot of what happens here in the Manyeleti, Timbavati, Sabi Sands, the private reserves, because it's much easier to get information from reliable sources than it is in Kruger, where the information network is so vast that it's difficult to pinpoint exactly who to speak to in order to get accurate kind of names and those kind of things. So I don't think he's got a coalition name yet, but he does hang around Open Gate, so you'll find if you kind of search around on the internet, you'll find quite a few posts about him up near the Open Gate area, and I know that he's often shared on various social media platforms when pictures of him do crop up from time to time. He's looking really good. I actually saw a photo of him a few weeks ago. He's starting to grow into a beautiful lion, and he was always a good-looking fella. I actually remember having the most crazy sighting with him. I've discussed the sighting a few times of when that crazy sighting of the Elephant Plains hyena clan, when they chased off the lions off that buffalo kill. And I think I've even shown the video once or twice. But essentially what happened there is that the Nkuhuma Pride pulled down this buffalo. This is prior to all the sub-adults that you see now. It was just as the Birminghams had taken over, and they pulled down the buffalo, and they decided they were going to go for water. Now, where they pulled down the buffalo was equidistant between 3 water points that were all very, very far away. It would be the equivalent of, I'm trying to think, maybe, I don't know, a mile away in every direction. So they decided they would walk off, and that there was only one hyena milling about, and they made the cardinal error because they did not know about the hyena clan of Elephant Plains. They hadn't spent time in that area for months and months and months, and so they started to walk off towards Simamili Dam in front of the camp, and they left poor little Junior by himself at this buffalo carcass, and the hyenas saw the gap very quickly, and they started to vocalize, and one by one they just started coming in, and eventually there must have been I would say about 15 or 18 hyenas to this one little male lion, and he was in no way a dominant male. In fact, he was probably about a year older than the male that we see in the Nkuhuma Pride now. So he was a bulky boy, but he wasn't in any way dominant. And he actually stood up to those 15 hyenas for well over half an hour. It was actually closer to 45 minutes. He chased those hyenas around and kept that carcass until such time as they just got too many. Eventually we got to the point where it was close to 28 hyenas, and then they bullied him off the carcass, unfortunately, and sent him scampering off. And then the Shimungwe pride came in, and that was 2 females and a male, and they came into the carcass, and he actually came in and chased them away from the carcass with the hyenas in tow of all of the lions. So he was quite an amazing cat. I thoroughly enjoyed that sighting. He really did stand up, and his estimation as to kind of the bravery of a male lion went up within his case, particularly because of how much he actually did there to try and keep that carcass and keep it kind of working. Now the little dwarf mongoose has just run behind me here and is just sitting on the mound, so it's worked out very quickly. Hang on a second, there's a leopard there. I need to get to somewhere where I can go into safety, and so has found itself a perfect little spot. Should Hosana stand up, it can just disappear in there. Anyway, talking about lions, we discussed lions more than we discussed Hosana for the last little bit, but talking of lions, it seems as though Sydney has found the Nkuhuma pride.
I am very much lucky this afternoon. After a little bit of some trekking, I managed to get hold of the Nkuhuma pride. You can see they're all now resting, as is their time to rest. The lions are much more active during the dusk, and that is where quite a lot of activities are taking place. But now here is their resting time. These animals can be able to rest for about 18 hours a day, and their activities can take about 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and then they leave it. So, but looking at the stomach, I can see that these lions, they are not full. They've got to do some hunting activities. So maybe later on, they are all going to wake up and do something. So this is what is called a pride. A pride is consisted of the females, and sometimes you can find young males as well, but mostly by the lions. The males, they tend to form their own group, which is called a coalition. So the one that we are seeing much more on the left there, that is a young male. So how to distinguish between the male and female lions is that the males, they've got some manes, and the females don't have the mane. And this mane, they start to grow when these lions are 1 year old. And it does have quite a lot of role to play. The mane, when it's there, it's not just there for a decoration. Yes, it has got something to do with the attraction of the females, as a lot of females, they get fascinated by those males with the long hairs. But it can also help them during the territorial fights, as that long mane will help to protect the neck. If you look at that neck on these lions, the head and the neck, there is no marked space between the head and the neck. The neck is very much reduced, which helps them, because imagine if the lion had a long neck. When fighting, they were going to injure each other badly. But at this stage as well, they do injure each other badly. The fightings amongst the cats, lions specifically, can be very much vicious. So these animals are part of the apex species, meaning that they are on top of the food chain, so nothing predates them. They predate these other animals. And on the other side, they are also part of the canine species. So it means their responsibilities includes the control of the species that are dominating the most, and that benefit the trees. Because if the lions are controlling browsers, I'm referring to the animals that feed on leaves. If they are controlling browsers and grazers, those that eat grass, the trees get benefits because they don't have quite a lot of pressure. Christine, that is quite a very interesting question. The male lions, not always they lose a fight. Some of them, they can be very much strong to dominate and win a fight. But the challenge is lions, such as these kind of groups, the prize, the females as well, they defend the intruders. So females also don't want other females to come and join them when they are staying like this. They are very much solid, and they will defend against other animals coming to join them. But also, those males that are part of the coalition, for them to come in is a big problem. And some of these females, they tend to become nomadic. They leave the prides and stay at their own. And those ones as well, for them to join the other prides, it becomes very difficult. And for them to be welcomed, it takes many years. So the structure of the lions, the membership is always staying the same. It always changes when there is a mortality. When one of them dies, that is when it's going to change, or else when the babies are born. So normally they stay together as they are. Romet, the largest pride I have seen here in Djuma Game Reserve, it is the pride that we are seeing now. This is the Unkuhuma pride. I have counted them before, 11 of them. That is quite interesting. But before Djuma, I have been in Kruger National Park where I saw a pride of about 29 females. And it was very much interesting. And this is very beautiful. Look at those paws. So look at that muzzle. You can see that these lions are very much powerful. Oh, Safari Sally, that is quite a very, very, very much interesting question. You know, in Venda, how we greet by calling the lions. How I greet is Nda. Nda is just a small part shortened from Ndawiyanduna, which means a male lion. When we are greeting, we say a male lion. And another one will reply and also say Ndawiyanduna, which means also a male lion. But when it comes to the chiefs and the kings as well, there is where you will see it happening the most. When the chief and the kings and the headmen are talking to their people, when they talk, there must have to be someone echoing. And someone who will be echoing will be emphasizing what the chief and the king is saying in the form of a roar, like when the chief is saying, "Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the meeting." And then the one who is echoing is going to say, "You, the territorial owner." And then again, he's going to talk something, and the one doing the echoing is going to say, "You who could pronounce die and we die." And then something like that again is going to, every time he's talking, he will be emphasizing that you are the owner of the turtle, you are the king of the jungle, we are afraid of you, whatever you say, it goes. So you can see that the lions and the Venda people, they've got quite a very interesting stories related. So they are not just the king of the jungles. So the issue of them regarded as king of the jungles is also practiced by some of the tribes here in Southern Africa. They are so very much quiet, as if there is nothing here. So now, let's go to Tristan. He's got Hosanna, who is sleeping at the moment. Yes, the lions are also sleeping, but I don't know if Hosanna is on the ground or up by the tree.
No, Sydney, he is on the ground. Well, he thinks he's in a tree the way that he's got his legs wrapped around a branch, but he's most certainly on the ground at this stage. Are you going to roll over for us, Hosanna? Oh, look at that stretch. His big paws are starting to get very big these days. He's looking very comfy. Bob, no, is not in danger sleeping on the ground now. Remember that, as you can see with Sydney's lions, that most of the other predators are doing exactly what he's doing. In fact, I'm pretty sure that Tingana, Tandi, Tlalamba, Hukamuri, all of the leopards, for the most part, would be sleeping right now, as well as, like I say, the lions and even hyenas. And so sleeping on the ground like this is absolutely fine at this time of the day, and even at night, you know, as long as they're aware of their surroundings and they're listening. Remember, with cats, their sense of hearing and their sense of smell is far superior to what we can sense, and so even though they're sleeping and they look as though they're completely relaxed, you'll find that at any sound that he deems as something he needs to pay attention to, his ear will twitch. Look, now you can see his ear moving now already. So there's a squirrel that's starting to call now, and I wonder if that might make him pick up his head. We'll just have to watch, but his ear will twist and turn, and if he hears something that he needs to investigate, he'll pop his head up in a flash, and then he's got a quick turn of speed, and then he'll run. And if it's something like hyenas or lions, he'll go up into the nearest tree. He's got a marula that's not very far from him at all that he can go and get into, and he'll get into the top branches where lions won't be able to get to, and obviously hyenas won't be able to climb. But if he runs that way, there's a marula right there. And if it's another leopard, well, then he'll try and chuff and just be as submissive as possible. He doesn't have too much to worry about at the moment. He's encountered most of the leopards in this area. So Poofy Poof, yes, he could definitely be awoken by scent carried in the wind. We've seen it a number of times with our cats. Tingana is a prime example the other day when he robbed Hosana, is that he was sleeping on a termite mound just like pretty much like Hosana is now, maybe not as elegantly poised with the back leg, but was pretty passed out on the termite mound. And the big gust of wind came, and Tingana's head went straight up and his nose to the air, and he just sat there sniffing the air for about 20 minutes. And then he got up and he walked straight to Hosana's kill. So if there's something in the air, scent-wise, that they can pick up, they most definitely will smell it and they will then react to it. And so that stimulus can either be, approaching predators, prey items, anything like that could get them going. Even people, the scent of us walking around might get him to lift his head too. So even though they're on the ground, even though they look sleepy, these animals are highly alert, and you see it quite often when something happens around them. So either a prey animal enters the scene, and lions are pretty good with this. You see a buffalo walk into a pride of lions and you see how quickly they go from sleeping to alert and to hunting. It's astonishing. I've actually once had a sighting of lions completely sleeping, all flat, passed out, looking as though there was nothing that was going to wake them or stir them. In fact, they had not moved in the 20 minutes that I had been there. And out of nowhere, a kudu came bounding along, and it saw the lions at the last second and tried to jump over them. And the lions just out of nowhere went from sleeping to into midair and grabbed that kudu and pulled it down, and they all feasted on it. So, as much as they look like they're asleep, they're still very much aware of their environment and what's going on around them. So, sometimes they sleep a little bit more deeply and get caught unawares from time to time, but it's not very often that happens. But you'll find Hosana in particular, it's interesting. I've been discussing this quite a bit lately with various cam-ups that I've had on my vehicle, is that it seems as though even though Karula was such an arboreal cat, so Karula spent a lot of time resting in trees. Often go out, find her just up a tree randomly, no carcass, just sitting up there resting. And, Hosana and Shongile, when they were young, they spent a lot of time climbing trees and playing and going up and down and spending time up there with Mom. But as he's gotten older, he very seldom see him in a tree, actually. It's only if there's food up there that we see him. He very seldom just lounges up in a tree and takes it easy up there. And there's probably the biggest reason for that is that he doesn't want to be spotted by other leopards as much. So if he lies up in a tree where he's right out in the open, much like we're seeing these leopards spotting carcasses from a long way, particularly now in winter, it's very easy for another leopard to see him and then maybe come and investigate and attract attention to himself. So much better for him to be down on the ground at the moment. Maybe as he gets a little bit older he might use trees, but typically you don't see male leopards using trees all that often to rest. There's very few males that will choose trees to regularly rest in. They prefer to be on the ground. They're just much bigger and bulkier. There's a lot of effort to get up and down one of these trees, and they prefer just to lie down on the ground and only use trees for food or for safety. Whereas females, on the other hand, tend to be more arboreal. But you look at Tundi, she's not an arboreal cat at all. We very seldom find Tundi in a tree outside of having a kill as well. She doesn't seem to like sitting in trees all that much, and it's just, each cat has got its own preference. And interesting that at the moment we don't have many kind of cats that prefer trees other than Shadulu. Shadulu is probably the only one that we see regularly up and down trees and termite mounds, a lot more so than any of the other cats that we're seeing currently. Be nice if Hosana decided to wake up at some point. I was thinking of maybe going for a little bumble around and then coming back, but my worry is with Hosana is that there's a bit of cloud cover that's come over now, and that could very well mean that he's going to get up and start moving, and then to find him again can be quite challenging. Anyway, we'll think about it and see what we're going to do. In the meantime, let's send you back across to Sydney and see whether his lions have decided to even move a little inch.
I have got something happening here which is very rare. Listen to them. Listen to that. can hear the lions snoring. First time for me to hear the lions snoring. So these lions are very much relaxed. Yeah, one of these lions is roaring. I can hear it very nicely.
Yeah, the fan's a bit loud here.
So these kind of animals, for them to hunt efficiently, they must have to be at least 2 years. But they start to display their stalking behavior when they're about 5 months. 5 months, you will see them walking, trying to stalk the animal, showing that behavior, imitating it very nicely. But when they're older than 10 months, they are allowed to participate. They are allowed to participate on these kind of hunting activities. But for them to hunt efficiently, they must have to be at least older than 2 years. Now I can hear that snore very nicely. Rina, unfortunately, I haven't picked up any evidence showing that this lions has caught something so far, meaning that the hunt is going to continue. When I left them earlier this morning, they were hunting. They were doing some hunting activities. So look at that one sleeping there, not even worried about anything at all. And that is the one growing some hairs, showing that is a young male. So Michelle, the easiest way to distinguish between the male and the females is to just check the male. The females is the ones that are maneless. So the maneless ones are the females. Although I know in some of the areas, both male and females, you can find them maneless. It has been recorded before. You can see that one closing the eyes. You can see the marking of a false eye coming out, and that is part of at least the anti-predatory strategy. If anything wants to try something here, will think, no, this lion is watching me. You can see there right on top of the eyes, there's a false eye coming out. Dana, the lions are not interested to do cannibalism. Yes, some other species, they do that. But species such as lions, I have never seen them eating the dead ones. But when it comes to the little ones, yes, lions, remember, they are very much popular when it comes to the behavior which is called to infanticize, whereby they fight for the territorial reasons. And if there are babies there, they kill the babies of the previous males in order to start their own generation. And every time this is happening, people don't realize what is the motive behind these lions killing the babies. Let me tell you something today. Reason why the male kills the babies of the previous male is that they know that the females, when they are under stress, the pituitary gland in the brain release quite a lot of estrogen hormone, which will then drive the female to go back on ostrus so that they can start having their own babies. So in other words, it's a deliberate act in order to provoke the feelings of a female in order to mate with them. Look at that. You can see when the legs are spread open like that, some of the things such as parasites is when the sun is burning, is when they can be leaving the body. So you can see some of the spots there. So these lions, when they're still very young, they've got quite a lot of spots, and these spots, they faint as they mature. As they become adults is when the spots are starting to get disappeared. And look at that. So a pride like this has got a very good chance of catching a prey, because it's quite a lot of them. Cooperatively, it's easy for them to take down an animal. And some of them, during these hunting activities, they preferred some of the positions. Some, they will go in the middle, whereas some, they prefer to go from the side. Some of them, they wait and catch something when it's fleeing some of the family members. So they enjoy that the most. To them, hunting is like a game. Sebastian, I have seen that on several occasions. I was once on a sighting whereby I was not even aware the lions were there. And these two elephants were feeding. And as they were feeding, they pushed down a big tree. And that big tree fell onto the lions. And lions ran, and a big fight started there. I was not aware of the presence of the lions that day. I was just enjoying the elephant sighting. But these elephants, they knew that the lions are somewhere in there. It was a very big fight, but suddenly the elephants won the battle. You can see this one is enjoying his sleep. So now let's see. Hosanna is also on the ground at the moment, and if he's still sleeping, let's see. Maybe he's going to wake up and show some activities.
Well, we don't have Conrad, but we've got another special creature to show all of you. This is a rare creature that you get out here in the wilds of Africa. This is probably the rarest thing that you can see. He's got a silver mobile that he rides around on. You can just see him to the right-hand side there. That's the lesser spotted Conrad, dressed in khaki. That's his finest camouflage that he has on today. Often you'll find this species camouflages in this khaki coloration in order to be able to blend in with his surroundings. Look at him work. Now he's going down to check out the dam cam. This is often what this animal feeds on, is the dam cam itself, and he fixes the dam cam with much aplomb. He is very good at it, and you can see he's working very hard. Now he goes often back to his chariot in order to fetch various tools that he will use in order to fix everything and make sure that we have working cameras. There we go, he's going to wave. No, he's just giving us a smile. Sometimes you will find when this animal is spotted, unlike the leopard that will crouch down and hide, it will wave at you, and it will announce its presence by signaling hand gestures and big broad toothy smiles, and that will then tell you that it's safe to actually approach. But there he is doing his job. So I'm sure a lot of you will be very happy. I mean, I'm making fun of Conrad, but Zephyr, you say dam cam predator. Yes, competition for Hosanna at the moment. That's maybe why Hosanna decided to lie away. He knew that the apex predator in Conrad is on his way. So sure, you say he blends in with the box. Yes, I think if we could get Conrad to kneel down just on the right side of the box there, we would be really struggling to be able to see him. I think he'd blend in incredibly well. So, shame, poor Conrad. Rima, nocturnal, not so much. He's more of a diurnal creature. He likes to have his rest at night, and he works very hard during the day. So lots of foraging and movement during the day. He has a 12 o'clock run that he includes in his daily activities as well, which means that by nighttime he's often quite tired, much like Hosanna is tired now. That's when he typically tends to rest. But yes, he does, because you're right, I almost forgot to mention that he is an active karate participant too. He does a lot of judo and karate chops in order to try and keep gremlins at bay. He is very good at that, and that's his main food source is gremlins. You'll find that he'll go out. The other thing about this particular species is that is completely allergic to anything that is foliage based or vegetarian based. If it is anything that is not meat or gremlin, well, he will not prey on it. He will leave it alone. He really does not enjoy a salad or anything like that. In fact, if you ever have to save food for Conrad, you know that it is best to just wipe the salad aside and put the meat out for him, and it's quite a laugh. We actually have a good time laughing about Conrad and how his diet is. But he's an absolute gem of a human, and I do this in jest, but he really, without him, we would be dead and buried. He has worked tirelessly over the course of the last few weeks and months in order to do all the work that's been around for the TV show. He really is an asset to our kind of operation and an unsung hero for the most part in what goes on out here. He really is a champion fella. So Angela, how big is he and how many feet long? Well, it depends on whether he's wearing his favorite veldskoen, which is his type of shoes. In fact, I've got a pair of veldskoen on, so they're like this. That's what they look like. Well, and it depends if Conrad is wearing those or if he's wearing his so-called plakkies. Now, plakkies are the Afrikaans word for basically sandals. Fergus, you've got a plakkie. Pass me a plakkie. There's a plakkie. There's Fergus's plakkie, so that's what a plakkie looks like. So it depends on what he's actually going to be wearing at the time, but generally, what would you say, Fergus? Under 6 foot, or about 6 foot? No, under 6 foot. Maybe 5'11" I'm going to go with, or around that area. But as much as he is tall, he is also very, very strong. Now, our beard, you're asking, is the species monogamous? Well, who knows? I'm not sure. I'm hoping that I'll never find out his breeding display, to be honest. But as far as camp life goes at the moment, well, he's a single operator and is just kind of keeping his options open, I believe. But I'm pretty sure that he would be a good catch for many a young lass that is roaming around in the kind of city centres. Out here, the pickings are slim for such a prime animal. He's unfortunately got to just rely on keeping his mind busy by doing exercise and fighting of gremlins, which will prep him for his vacations to the cities, which he hopefully will be successful. Anyway, we digress completely about this. Hosana is not interested at all. Yes, he is very much habituated to vehicles. In fact, he has a very, very good relationship with vehicles. He can often be found during the course of the day working and tinkering on cars. He likes to kind of check out the engines. Often you can see him fiddling with cables and radios and all kinds of other things. So very habituated to the movement of cars and very, very much attracted actually to a car. In fact, you know, if you wanted to bait him, like let's say you would bait a predator by putting out a carcass, for a Conrad you would put out a few chops from a braai, and then you would put out a non-working vehicle, and that would lure him in. He would come in slowly at first, shy, just to make sure it's not a trap, and then he would come in with relish, and not only would he eat the chops, but he would then also basically fix the vehicle, and you'd be left with a nice operational vehicle. He's much like Santa, actually. You know, you would give Santa cookies and milk, and then he leaves a present, and that's very much like Conrad. You know, you give him some chops and some meat, and he'll leave you a working vehicle, which is always quite nice. Fine fella, isn't he, Fergus?
Isn't he?
Yes, he is. So I can honestly say he's probably one of the favorite staff members of a lot of the camp. He really is a champion, and like I say, we were completely joking around, but he really is a good guy, and we're very, very lucky to have him around. Hosana, that's why Hosana is so relaxed about him being at the pan. Even though it's Hosana's pan, he's happy to share with a legendary fella such as Conrad and allow Conrad to do his thing so that you can all see Hosana a little bit later in the day. So that's why Conrad is actually down there. And I do apologize for the few gremlins that have crept in during the course of this afternoon. The one good thing about it is not only have we gotten to see Conrad blending into his surroundings and doing his thing, but we've also it's allowed a certain member of our staff to also have a little bit of a break, and that is in the form of James R.A. Henry, who has been also working non-stop over the course of the last few weeks, and I'm quite glad that he's actually getting a bit of an afternoon just to relax and take it easy at this stage, because the man needs it. He's probably one of our harder working presenters, that's for sure. Kirsty says I'm a sucker, but it's true, Kirsty. You should know that he is worked very hard, and like I say this because, you know, I've been here at Juma, and between James and I done a fairly long cycle in this particular one, and James continues after even I go on leave. But you know, we've pretty much done most shifts out during the course of the last 5-6 weeks. Well, in fact, the last 6 weeks we've done almost every shift, and between that, what people don't know is that James looks after all of us as presenters, and he makes sure he's keeping us all in line and up to date with what's going on, which is a full-time job. You can imagine trying to manage the likes of myself, Brent Leo-Smith, Scott Dyson, Taylor McCurdy, Jamie Patterson, and Sydney and David is a full-time job in its own sort of regard. So he has to do that, as well as he's kind of done many of the VOs that we've had to shoot for the Gauntlet series, and it's kind of meant that James has been very busy over the past few weeks. So I'm quite glad that he's actually getting a bit of a break this afternoon. It's a forced break, because otherwise he doesn't listen. When I tell him that he needs to take a break, he just tells me no, and then I can't argue with him because he's a little bit more senior than me, and also he can shout, and I'm scared of him. No, I'm joking. He's a big, strong human. In fact, if you actually... Exactly, his bark is worse than his bite. I'm not sure if I would agree with that, Kirsty. He barks a lot, so I'm too scared to see how hard that bite really is. Actually, I kind of keep my fingers away from that barking to make sure that I'm out of that bite at any point in time. So Kirsty says he's like a small dog that shouts at you and then runs away. So you mean like a poodle? Are you calling James a poodle or a dachshund, a sausage dog? Is James a sausage dog? Please don't call him a sausage dog. I feel like he might... So apparently he hates sausage dog. So James is a sausage dog. That's hilarious. A poodle. Okay, so Maltese poodle. He doesn't have as much hair as a poodle, though. He's got, unfortunately, he's a Maltese that has been to the barber and has had all his hair cut off, but he's, that's what you're going to go with, Kirsty. I'm not taking responsibility for calling him a Maltese. That's on you. You can deal with the aftermath of that. No, you're scared now. Too late, Kirsty. You've sold yourself out, and now you're going to have to reap the rewards of calling James Hendry a Maltese poodle. What I will tell you, though, is if James and Conrad had to link up, well, then they would make a beast that would be about the height of Brent between the two of them, and they would be a lot stronger, though. I would say that, but they would be about the same height. Fergus is busy laughing at the moment. But the two,
They sat on each other's shoulders.
if they sat on each other's shoulders, yes, and put a trench coat on, yes, then they would appear like Brent Leo-Smith, except that they would have to grow a lot more hair, because between the two of them they don't have nearly as much hair as Brent has got either. This has been the most ridiculous conversation that I've ever had out here. I think we've seriously digressed, and this is what happens when cats sleep, but hopefully it's been entertaining for all of you. And so while we try and return this all back to a bit of some semi-normal kind of show about wildlife, let's send you back across to Sydney and the Sleepy Lions.
Halfway through, I just need to chat to someone.
Look at that. Now the lions are starting to become very active. It's getting very exciting now. Look at that. All of them are now starting to groom each other. And this is part of the ceremony lions got to go through every time they wake up. They don't just wake up and start with any other activities. First, they must have to groom each other. They must have to clean each other. Look at that. Some of them, you can see, they are showing us that they are so very much closely related and they love each other. Look at that. They are hugging each other. This is very normal. So lions, they always try by all means to maintain that kind of a relationship. This is lovely. Look at that. This is beautiful. So you can see that they are doing this as a reciprocal in order to also get cleaned back. So all of them are starting to be active. I'm glad that now the temperature is dropping down now, and there's only just few of them are still sleeping, but they might decide maybe to show us some of the hunting activities, and which is something I am waiting for. You can see they are very much busy, and then the other two are just still sleeping, hugging each other there. And look at those two. So they're hugging each other. They're having a very peaceful sleep. You can see that the lions are very much unpredictable because these two were just very active now. But how they are sleeping now is as if they were here sleeping flat. So if anything happens here when they're sleeping like that, they are going to be able to react and take action against whatever is approaching. So they don't sleep 100%. They sleep, the ears are still working. So the lions, the females, mostly they are the decision makers and is the ones that mostly decide what to do and where we're going. But if you can check, some of the other family members from the lower ranks, they also try to show their strength when it comes to hunting activities. You will see the old males relax like this, and one of them fascinated by a francolin or something and try to just go there. But they still got to maintain the respect to the elders. And look at that. So that's the young male starting to grow now. Beautiful. See those kind of teeth. So lions, when they start to... Let's quickly just go to Tristan. He does have something interesting with Hosanna at the moment.
We do indeed. So Hosanna has woken from his slumber, and that's because a little baby bushbuck came running past. So the bushbuck is just running down towards Conrad. So it's now stuck between two apex predators. This poor bushbuck at the moment, it's got itself stuck between Conrad and Hosanna. There it goes. Oh, it's clever. It's gone in underneath. It looks like underneath the fence. Now Hosanna's just watching, trying to think about where he's going to go from here, but he was a bit too fast asleep. If he had been a bit quicker, he might have actually even gotten himself a little meal out of all of this, which would have been quite something. But I think his opportunity is past. Hosanna, cat, were you too sleepy, boy? Let's see if he gives himself a bit of a yawn. Now he's still watching. He's just figuring out where he's going to go. And like I say, he probably can see Conrad as well. So he's now working out which way am I going to walk so that I don't get seen by these bushbuck. But unfortunately, that bushbuck was very clever. It's somehow picked up that something was going on because it walked down the road, and as it got kind of in line with Hosanna, it just went bolting down and running down towards the kind of pan, and then it's skirting that electric kind of fence area which protects the camp. Now I do apologize. Exactly, yes, the bushbuck heard me talking about Conrad being the carnivore and probably panicked at the thoughts. Now I'm just going to move a little bit because my head keeps getting in the way and my hands and everything, and I'm useless at this avoiding the camera story, so I'm going to just try and... There we go. Poofy Poof, I mean, to a degree, yes. He's kind of showing a preference for, at this stage, mostly Diker and kind of, I suppose, Nyala to a degree he's going after. He has gone after a few Impalas, but not really kind of properly at this stage. He's still more into the Dikers than anything else, but he's a young male leopard, so anything that comes past him, generally he's trying to stalk any opportunity he gets. But what we see him actively targeting, and his technique of late, is waterholes, lying in wait for something like a Diker to come and drink, and then he kind of goes about his business. Now, Hosanna, is there somebody else at your pan, boy? We're going to have to name this pan Hosanna's pan. We'll just call it... We actually have started to nickname him Pan Pet. That's what we've started to call him. That's his nickname around camp at the moment, is Pan Pet, because he kind of just is always around there. And so we'll have to call it Hosanna's... What should we call it? Hosanna's pen. Now, are you going to go and investigate people? Hosanna, seriously? You can't go and investigate people. There's people that are moving around at the camp, and he's watching them. And he's going to sit behind the log and watch them from behind the log. Here's another story. So there's people that are walking around in the background there. You can see them going through. Now there's a fence between them and him. That's why I'm not too worried about. So he's going to just rest there and kind of figure it out. Right. Now we're going to position ourselves a little bit better than where we are right now and figure out where we're going to kind of go. And in the meantime, let's send you back across to Sydney and the Nkume Pride.
I can see that now one of the Nkuhuma members is starting to show some activities. There is some movement going on, but now they're sleeping again. It's just trying to move, maybe looking for some sun, but the sun is gone already. It's becoming overcast, so I don't think they will see the sun anymore until the sunset. And this is what I'm looking for, because I know when the temperature is now starting to go down like this is when they're going to get excited and carry on hunting like I saw doing this morning. Look at that. Ruan, normally the male lions, as they're growing, when they get about 2 years and above, is when they get kicked out of the territory by the territorial holders. And that is when they must have to now have their own solitary life, tend to form their own coalition, and try to establish their own families. So it's very tough by the lions. You don't stay in there forever. Hey, look at the tip of the tail, that black tip there. So this black tip, when the lions are growing, when they're born, they are not born with that black tip. It has to develop, and you will start to notice it when they're about 5 months. And it's identifiable when they are at the age of about 7. So that kind of compaction of hairs there is there just to protect kind of a spiny bone, which is the end of the tailbone part. So they use this tail for balancing. A station going towards Vuyotela coming for Sydney. I just got some other colleagues here who are looking for these sightings. I'm just going to try and assist them to get to where I am now. I've got an audio of your vehicle, but you can still keep coming, keep coming. Yeah, right there where you are, I can see you passing. If you can just turn right and keep following the little path coming down to the bushes is where I am. I just saw your vehicle just now. Carry on that track that is going down Muluwati, as I have just seen your vehicle going past. So I will be having another vehicle coming to join me on the sighting. So I'm glad that the lions are starting to show some activities, and we will wait. I will wait here and see what is going to happen afterwards. The lions, to be honest, they are not trustworthy. When it comes to those birds such as oxpeckers, they got to be very much careful. Lions are not trustworthy at all. I haven't seen the oxpeckers trying the lions, but I have seen Wasana some time ago trying to aim at the oxpeckers. So the predators are always unpredictable. Rina, I didn't copy your question very nicely. If you can repeat that for me. Yeah, positive. The flies, they do bother the big cats. You'll see, because some of these cats, because of fighting in order to take down a prey and also fighting amongst themselves, they do have quite a lot of wounds. And these kind of flies, they do irritate them a lot. You can see that they are becoming very inquisitive as they are just watching the vehicle coming into the sighting. Look at that, they are all just yawning. Always very nice to see the canines coming out from the mouth. So those kind of canines can be very much strong. So it's the ones that they're using in order to crush bones. So when starting to wound those kind of teeth, that also reduces their chances of survival, as they cannot be able to eat. Look at that one in the middle. Look at that, how that one is folding the legs. Very much relaxed. You can even see the sexual organ there. So sometimes these kind of males, you must check the lions after mating, the female got to clap the male. Why? Because the sexual organ of a male lion is consisted of some of the spines, and these spines, during mating, the females, they feel them, but when the male is withdrawing the copulatory organ, it does scratch the congenital copulatory passage, and that is when you will see the female getting irritated and try to clap the male. And if that doesn't happen, the female is not going to ovulate. It's another way of a female in order to kickstart ovulation. Ovulation is a process whereby the eggs of the female is ready for fertilization. Kevin, the lion's tongue are very much coarse. That is why after birth you will see the females, they do lick their little ones. And the reason for them to lick their little ones is to try and give them vitamin D. Because when they're licking, it helps them. And also to assist when it comes to the blood circulation. So now, let's go back to the little chief, and I'll remain here with the king of the jungle. We've got the chief and the king of the jungle.
Well, I don't think that Hosanna will take that kindly as to being called, well, that the lions are the king. I think Hosanna thinks he's the king of this particular area. He's now starting to fall asleep. I thought he might put his head on top of that log, but it seems like he's starting to rest a little bit now and potentially might be falling asleep. Every now and then he puts his nose up to the window and sniffs about. Maybe he's smelling what's going on in the Juma kitchen at the moment and seeing if there's something that he likes. I wonder if he's probably also just waiting for Conrad to finish up down there before he'll actually start moving in that direction, because you can very clearly see Conrad and is fine for now. The distance is so far that Conrad's not in any danger whatsoever, and Hosanna doesn't seem too stressed about it, which is also fairly good news. But it would have been nice if there had been more bushbuck on the way. We actually just saw Gogi, the little the old bushbuck that we had visiting a room the other day, and she's around camp, and I saw her walking down this area, so she must be careful, because obviously there's a leopard about and we wouldn't want Gogi to be eaten at some point, unfortunately. Yes, I know, Kirsty. I think the entire girl squad of camp will be very upset with Hosanna if he had to kill Gogi. There will be a lot of trouble for him to pay. Hosanna, you don't want that kind of crazy on your hands, buddy. Now we're going to have to try and reposition ourselves somehow. because he's very much gone asleep, but he's in a little tricky little spot, I would say. Not a difficult spot, a tricky spot. So let's just try and we'll figure out how we're going to get to where he is, that we can see him nicely. So, Debbie, I will show you shortly. Just give me 2 seconds to get into a good position here. Oh, Eddie, no. So Eddie with an E, not Debbie. Sorry about that, Eddie. Do apologize. Let's just try and get you into a better position here where we can actually see Hosana, and then I'll try and find a map in order to show you where the lions are in relation to, well, the sleepiest of sleepy spotted cats this afternoon. So just going to try and get ourselves into this little gap here. This should be a perfect little spot. Fergus, are you okay there? Sorry, Hosana cat, am I making a noise? Sorry, boy. Right, now I need to find a map. I don't know whose map this is because it's a very dirty map, but anyway, it's a map nonetheless, so we'll use it. Alright, so basically here we are. This is the map that we have, and this is supposed to say Gowrie Dam, not Vuyatela Dam, but it's Gowrie Dam that is there, and that's the wrong name for it. Vuyatela Pan is the small little pan that we're now calling Hosana's Haunt. But effectively what we've got is there's a road that comes up towards this little red spot that says Vuyatela over there. So you can see there's the blue dam and then there's this red writing. Now that's pretty much where Hosana is lying, is on those red letters at this stage. And the Nkuhuma Pride are lying over here. So they're just kind of south of Quarantine, just off Twin Dams Road. This is Twin Dams Road that comes down, and they're lying just over in that direction. So the distance is not very far at all, but the general direction of the lions this morning was southwards. So I'm hoping that they're just going to continue southwards or maybe move westwards, and that they won't come back towards the dam, because otherwise Hosana might get spooked by them again. But where he's lying now, I would be very surprised if the lions walk this way. Generally, the lions will drink, and they'll either go over the dam wall and up Mvubu Road, or they come onto Quarantine and then go westwards or around sort of Gallagher shortcut. Very seldom do they walk this little road that we're seeing where Hosana is now. And sometimes they do, but it's not often at all that we find their tracks coming between the lodge. They're far less likely to walk into the lodge than what a leopard is. Right, so let's put our dirty map away. Hosana has got his head up for about the next 2 seconds, I would imagine. Fergus, you've still got that branch in your way. Hold on. Let's try go forward a little bit. So there's a little branch that's right in Fergus's way at the moment. That will do, Fergus. Is that better? And Fergus is director of photography at the back here. He needs to tell me when he's happy. You will allow me to continue as a team member. Excellent. Thank you, Fergus. Very kind of you. And you can see Hosana, well, glanced at us a little bit to be as if to say, you guys are making noise, please can you keep quiet, but has now decided that he can fall asleep. I was hoping he was going to put his head on the log there and sleep on the log, but instead it's paws up and just get himself nice and comfy for a bit more of a rest. Now the thing is where he's lying right now and where we're parked is an almost little gauntlet that these, I didn't think I'd say that word easily again, and James talked about it the other day, but that word brings up scarring at this stage, but gauntlet that is being run here essentially by the bushbuck and nyala of the camp, because they've got to walk basically between this fence line and this leopard. And that means that he's kind of in quite a good striking zone. He might actually get himself a little meal here. Although I know Hosana is a little kind of concerned with going near that fence. I, funnily enough, watched him get his nose shocked one day where he was being too curious, because he was being his typical curious self, and he walked up to the fence and tried to sniff it, and it hit him on the nose, a little electric shock, and he jumped backwards. And since that day, whenever I watch him around here, he always steers very clear of this fence and tries to stay away from it. He didn't get hurt in any way, it just kind of got him a little shock, and I didn't think he got touched properly. But anyway, right, now we'll sit with him as he kind of looks as comfy as possible and hopes that he gets up, and while we do that, let's send you back across to the Nkuhuma Pride.
Something very much fascinating is happening right here at the moment, as what we are seeing down there now is one of the lions, the second lion going down for the bathroom. So they are all leaving the place where I am, which is right here on the right side of the vehicle where we are going to see now, and they are moving all the way down to the other side of the drainage just to have to have the bathroom. So they are very much clean animals. They are walking a distance of about 15 to 20 meters just to go and hide their droppings there. I can pick up the very strong distinctive scent from their droppings. It's not smelling nice. So you can see now that they are starting to disperse. Anna Marie, yes, I have seen quite a lot of buffalo heads in the reserve on the past 2 months, and I have also been to one of the very serious attempts whereby the lions wanted to take down one of the buffaloes, but they couldn't win. So the animals such as buffaloes can easily gang up against these kind of predators. Yes, sometimes if the chances are there, they do manage to take down a buffalo. Mostly the Unkuhuma prides in Juma, we do see them because of the presence of the buffaloes. It's only this time that the buffaloes are not around and they are around. Look at that now. That one is trying to scratch in order to get rid of the external parasites. So the birds are not coming to assist because lions are not trustworthy. The oxpeckers are not here. Look at that. This is quite a very beautiful sighting. This is what we normally see on the ground. When I'm talking about trekking, this is what we see. Look at those toes and the pad. Right there where that lion is licking, some of the insects such as the precessionary worms, they do sometimes release some of the hairs, and these hairs, they itch too much. So the lions, if they step on a precessionary worm, it does affect the tongue, because when it's itching between the toes, they must have to lick it. And when licking it is when they are going to take those hairs to the tongue, and that is where they are going to experience problems. So unfortunately, if there is anything in between their toes, to get rid of it, they must have to use the mouth and the tongue. Philip, the lions, they don't really 100% bury their scat like the cats do. I have seen, yes, they do sometimes scratch the ground, and some of them, they even scratch before they leave the droppings. But the ones that I have just seen now, 2 of them went there, they did not bury at all. And the sand is very much soft where they deposited their droppings. Can see another one going there now. Maybe it's also going to the bathroom. Let's follow him. I just want to see, maybe this one also is going to end up by the bathroom. No, I was just trying to... I was just thinking maybe this one is not feeling safe to go to that bathroom. I can see he's trying to isolate himself away. Oh, this one is very lazy to go down to where the others left their droppings. He's just leaving the droppings right here. This one is also thinking about to move. You can see the spots, we can still see them clearly there. But as they get old is when these kind of spots are going to start to disappear, when they become adults. Look at that. Seems like there's something affecting the tongue. This is amazing. What I'm going to do now is, considering the fact that the other vehicles are leaving the sighting, I am now going to try and reverse so that we can see them nicely, because they have moved a little bit to the other open area. So I'm just gonna try and reposition myself to give you the best sighting. So now, while I am reversing, trying to find a better spot, let's go back to Hosanna.
Well, Sydney, good luck reversing and finding a better spot. I did that just now, and so far not really much has changed here. Maybe what we can do is, Kirsty, maybe let's go and have a look at the flare just now, because it's quite cool actually to see a few things on our little pan pet, and we're just quickly sorting out the temperature range on the actual flare itself. But you can see, right, you can see now on the flare that he has very, very hot feet. So where there is no insulation on the foot pad itself, that it is burning hot and white. You can see his inside of his ear is quite white, the inside between his legs is quite white, and that's all because of the fur kind of packing up against it. It's producing heat. But what you can see too is, have a look at his tummy. His tummy is cold, so he's got a little black tummy there, and that's probably due to the fact that that's the thickest fur, and so therefore the insulation is actually at its thickest there, and therefore we're reading a much lower temperature. So it just gives you an idea of how the temperature difference is when you look at thicker fur versus no fur on the skin itself. The areas that are bare will show up very, very bright, and whereas his tummy with nice thick fur on top is kind of showing that it's a little bit cooler. Also, when he was lying earlier, he had his tummy up, and so the wind was hitting that and therefore cooling it down a little bit. But it's quite a nice thing to see. I absolutely love this little flare. It does an amazing job of being able to see all kinds of things. Fergus, are you struggling there? Yeah. Yes, Fergus is saying. So Fergus is saying, by mistake, pushed the wrong button, which it does happen with these things. The cam-ups have about 4 cameras on top of each other at the moment, and makes it a little bit more difficult. I love snacks. You say his paws are so big. Well, they are, aren't they? They're not fully grown just yet, but getting there. But he really does have nice, big, bulky front paws. Look at that. Isn't that cool? It's a nice look at those paws. You can kind of see. Now, interestingly enough, I'm trying to see if this is the foot that has got the diamond-shaped toe. It looks like it. It looks like that second toe from the bottom is the quite sort of diamond-shaped one, and then you can see the one on the second from the top has got a little kind of half moon out of it. So that should register in his tracks. We should be able to see that exact pattern in his tracks as well. I remember seeing his tracks the other day and saying that there's a little diamond shape on his left foot, which is that second toe from the bottom. So that's quite cool that we can actually see it, and you'd be able to identify it. But you can see his paws need a bit of moisturizing cream there, Hosanna. You've got a few cracked edges to your paws. I suppose it is winter and it's dusty and dry, and he has been up and down trees, but you've got to look after your feet. If you're going to be the model cat like you are, one must have nice, clean and moisturized pads, I think. I don't know what goes in the leopard world. Maybe dry and cracked is the new fashion in the leopard footwear world. either way, Hosanna doesn't care what I think because he's still absolutely sleepy and taking it very, very easy at this stage. Now, the other thing that you might notice on Hosanna, if we can have a look at his tail, please, Fergus, is that there is a little kink in his tail that I've been noticing of late. Now, it's not an easy thing to notice because generally he moves around quite a bit and you don't notice it. But if you have a look, you've got the kind of end of it that goes round, and then there's a small little bump. If you see it just kind of past the tip of the tail as it starts going down towards the kind of end of his backside, there's a little bump there. And now I keep thinking I'm being crazy when I look at his tail, but I've seen it a few times now at certain angles. There seems to be just a little slight kink in his tail. It's not huge and it's very much not noticeable unless you really look hard, but there is that little kind of kink that is developed just towards the tip there that he's got. It doesn't affect him in any way, and it's not anything serious, but just maybe a little kind of IDing feature of his tail. Zara, no. So the short answer to that is no, as when he starts mating, he will not avoid mating with his family. Instinct of a leopard or any cat is that they will mate with any female in estrus. They don't differentiate between his family or not. Obviously at this stage there's no sign of his mom or his sister, his direct sister in the form of Shongile. But, I also don't think that he'll be old enough to mate with Thandi the next time she's in heat. I think will be her last time. But who knows, maybe. I suppose he could mate with Tlalamba, he could mate with Kuchava, he could very well do that, and he will. I mean, if they're in heat and he's the dominant male, he most definitely will mate with them. That instinct to mate far outweighs his care for whether or not it is a family member. I mean, we've seen it with Anderson. If Anderson mates with Tiani now, that will be mating with his daughter. There's been countless other examples of it throughout the Sabi Sands of male leopards mating with some sort of family member that they have been around and known. And that's why generally what happens is that the male leopards born into an area generally become dispersal males and move off and become nomadic, so that they end up in an area that generally is an outlying area to their family, and so that they're not actually mating with their direct family. But sometimes you'll get a situation where things change and you get an event where, let's say like quarantine, where he's ended up very close to his family and then could potentially mate with Thandi, which as we know is also his older sister. So it just depends. There's a lot of circumstance around it, and quarantine got lucky, as did Shivambalana, and Hosanna looks like he might get lucky too and might just find himself a little spot here on Djuma, which I can assure you none of us will complain about. I will be very happy if Hosanna ends up staying around this particular section, because he is just the most wonderful cat. Now I can hear a little pearl-spotted owlet that is talking in the distance. It's nowhere that I can see it yet, but there is two that hang around very close to here, and I'm hoping they might come into one of the marula trees that we're sitting close to, and maybe just get a view of them. I know it's Byron's favorite bird. Every time I hear that call now I have to think of Byron, which is, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. What's that? It is a tough thing to deal with. It's not ideal to have to think of Byron every time a bird calls as frequently as what the pearl-spotted owlet does. But anyway, it's okay. Now, I hope Byron is well. I know he was watching the other day, so it's always nice to hear from Byron, and hope that he's doing good, and I'm sure he's on to good things as always. Isn't that a beautiful sky? Yes, he should come visit and bring us presents, Kirsty. What present do you want from Byron, Kirst? That's the thing, is that you've got to be specific, because if you just tell Byron to bring presents, I don't know if we want half the things that Byron will end up bringing. The one thing that Byron does bring, actually, talking about presents, is that this is exactly where I was going with this, Kirsty, is that he brings food. Now, Byron is a firm lover of a snack. He is definitely a ferreter. He likes, when I say a ferreter, he likes to go and ferret around in the kitchen and snack on things as the day goes. And so Byron will always bring a supply of biltong, which is, for those of you that don't know, is a South African version of jerky, effectively, but we all think it's much nicer than jerky, which I suppose is debatable depending on where you come from. And he brings that, and then he brings a thing called a dry wors, which is a sausage version of biltong, essentially, and then another thing called cabanossi. That's what he also brings as well. And then for the girls, he often will bring a fudge. So he brings the sweet stuff in the form of fudge, and he then often leaves it when he goes back, and it's homemade fudge. Yes, you're right. So Byron spoils it. Yes, he does pack it himself, which is worrying, and who knows what it's laced with. No, I'm joking. Byron the baker. I actually think Byron would be a great baker, don't you think? With those little cheeks, he could be a little perfect. Yes, Frank with his apron on. I mean, we saw him doing that, cooking that bush breakfast. Byron loves to cook, so you get him his little apron. I think he'd make a great baker. We'd have to add about 40 pounds to him to make him look like a real good baker, because I don't know if you can trust a skinny baker. That's the thing. There was a saying once, I can't remember if it was just a South African thing, but it was never trust a skinny baker. Yes, don't trust a skinny chef is another saying, but there's also something about a baker. But anyway, so Byron's baked goods is what we can call it, or Byron's biltong and baked goods. How about that, Kirst? That's what Byron can be bringing us. I don't know how we've gotten on to Byron for as long as we have. Today has been a day where we've discussed all the crew members rather than the animals, which hopefully you haven't been all bored to death by, because that wouldn't be ideal. Now, I'm actually sitting here gazing upon the scene that we're gazing upon. Obviously, Hosanna is quite sleepy, but when Fergus tilted up just now, you might have noticed that there was an antenna. So there's a big antenna that is just off to the top right there, and that is known as Bird's Nest. And surprise, surprise, why it is called Bird's Nest. There you go, you can see a myriad of birds' nests that adorn this lovely structure. Now, those nests are all made by a red-billed buffalo weaver. There's actually one sitting quite far down there. It might be difficult to see behind a branch, but there it is. There's a red-billed buffalo weaver. Now, these birds build this nest, and they are pesky, to say the least, because sometimes you need to go and work up there, and it is near impossible to get up there because they have now built these nests that look very docile, don't they? They look like nice little sticks that have all been put together, and that there's really, nothing harmful about it. No, those sticks are all compromised of knobthorn and buffalo thorn, and are like Hades when you try and go up there, and so in fact you end up not being able to climb where it's safe in the tunnel that goes up, and you have to climb on the outside where it's unsafe, because you don't want to tear down these birds' nests. And so that particular bird's nest, and that one that you see there, at about this time last year, in fact probably about June, July last year, when the migration series was happening up in the Mara, I was tasked with climbing this, and I remember I got asked to go and get a few things down from there, in which I said no problem. How difficult will it be? And I got told no, it will be fairly easy by our tech department, and ended up going up there, and it was a lot harder than I first thought. I also didn't help that I had the three biggest scaredy cats of heights with me in the form of Taylor, Craig and Seb. None of them like heights, and so I ended up having to go up by myself, and we proceeded to try with much what's the word for it, difficulty, end up getting these things down. And it was only because we had no idea what we were doing. I then watched Conrad do one the other day, and it took him about 2 minutes, and I felt very sheepish because it had taken me almost a day to get those things down. But anyway, when I look up at that tower, yes, Patty, you should wonder why we got gremlins. Well, that was last year. That was before, we had the likes of Jared and Conrad and on this side of the world that helped out with everything. So, the gremlins were to be expected this time last year. I do apologize. It was my fault at times, but, we tried our best to try and figure it all out at some point. But that little tower gives me nightmares, especially at this time of the day, because it was a similar kind of weather, and I remember being blown about by wind up there. It was a horrid experience, but one that I'll always look back at and have a little chuckle, especially at Taylor and Sebastian's refusal to climb anything higher than 1 meter for fear of heights. Anyway, now we're going to wait for Hosanna to wake up, and while we gaze upon the terrorizing tower, and send you back across to Sydney and hope that the Nkuhuma Pride has decided to wake up.
The Nkuhuma Pride, they look very much hungry, as not very long ago, about 2-3 minutes ago, they were stalking a francolin. You can see if these 11 lions are stalking a francolin, you can see it means they are so very much hungry. So, but now the weather is changing, it's getting windy, and this windy is exciting them, because I can see that they are trying to pick up a lot of information from the air particles. So they've got a very good sense of smell. Oh, that one has got something hanging at the back. Look at that. That one has got something hanging at the back. Have you seen that?
No.
Yeah, it does have something hanging at the back. You must check now. Look there. You see, I think he's trying to defecate and the droppings are hanging. Look at that. I am very sympathetic to that lion because he looks irritated a little bit with that. More other ones are coming. So you can see now they have decided to move around. Now is when maybe they will show us their original plan for this morning. Here they were just resting for a day, so they must stick to their original plan. We want to see some hunting activities this afternoon. So the animals, defecating helps them a lot, especially before hunting activities, because then they lose a lot of weight as they're defecating and become light. Then they can run very fast. So hunting when the stomachs are full is a challenge because they cannot run fast and they are not flexible. Alistair, yes, the males, the lions, sometimes the sub-adults, you see them at their own and they can be able to survive because these kind of cats, they not only depend on their prey from hunting, sometimes they've got to scavenge. Big cats such as lions, they also do take some of the prey taken by some of other predators. So the sub-adults, they can also survive that. Look, they are all now coming down. Yeah, a few of them are still left behind on the other side of the dry riverbed. So they are coughing a lot. And normally, this is what they do when they're eating, affected by a lot of hairs from a prey. They cough too much in order to get rid of the hairs from the body. Look, one of them is injured there. And this injury has been here for quite a long time because I have seen it as well on several occasions before. So it's very much difficult for that lion to heal because they are walking in between the bushes. Bushes is always scratching and opening, and flies as well. So, and when these lions are licking these kind of wounds, it does create more problems because the tongue of the lions is very much coarse and it has got some kind of spines at the back which helps them to scrape. Mostly they use the tongue to scrape the meat and also in order to scrape the body when they're trying to groom each other. So it's very much coarse. Because here comes the... Not too sure if this is the last one. They're all going to the same tree there and scratch. They're all scratching. I'm just going to pull forward just a little bit for you to see. See, they're all going to that tree here. Look, all of them are going to that tree in order to... They're all going there. Look at that. You see, all of them are going to that tree. You will see even this tree in order to prepare the muzzles. You can see they are stretching with that tree. Let's see the other one if it's going to go. That is beautiful. You can see, look, that other one as well is going to do the same. So the other one is interested in playing. Maybe this last one as well is going to do the very same kind of behavior of going to stretch there. I haven't heard any of the warning call from any of the other animals. You can see now is trying to also stretch there. So the other ones as well went there and grabbed that branch. Look at that. Beautiful. The other one is not interested. He went past. So they have decided now to go towards the northern side of the game reserve. What I'm going to do now is that I am going to try and reallocate the sighting and try to follow them and see what they're thinking about to do, because hopefully they might be up to something. Maybe they are going to hunt now. So now while I'm doing that, let's go back to Hosanna.
Well, Hosanna is still a sleepy cat, although he's going to get a lot of noise now because it's now time for the red-billed buffalo weavers to go to roost. So lots of chattering will be taking place above his head, which hopefully will get him going a little bit. There's also a wind that's really kicking up now and a cold front that seems to be arriving and coming into this area, and that means that we're going to hopefully see a little bit more out of our little friend who is, well, done very little today. He was a bit, I suppose he got up for the bushbuck. We can't give him no credit. I mean, he's generally a busy boy as well, and this morning he delighted James with all kinds of shenanigans, from being up in the tree feeding to down and walking around and avoiding lions. And so, you know, I suppose he's done a lot, and we can't get too grumpy with him, but he feels like he's starting to stir a little bit. You can see he's rolled over, his ears are moving a little bit, and kind of feel like he's on the brink of deciding whether or not he actually wants to wake up and move or carry on sleeping. I'm not going to lie though, the weather conditions are starting to turn quite ugly, and so if I was him I would just stay napping. He's got a full belly after all, doesn't really need to go very far, and so I don't suppose he actually has too much to go and do. It's not like he's a territorial animal that needs to go and patrol. He's at his home in the form of the pan is not far away, and so I suppose just take it easy and spend some time around this area. Maybe he'll go and visit Kirsty and Jerry at the new rooms that have been built. He seems to like that area, often pays the girls a visit on his way through camp, and so he's always invited. Yes, I'm sure, until he's in your bedroom, then he's not going to be invited any longer, is he? So Kirsty's saying he's welcome as long as he doesn't kill Gogo, which is the bushbuck, or any of the other friends. Now the other friends include various other options, which is the 2 bush babies that have become very habituated in that area. There are 2 scrub hares apparently that now no longer run away from the girls. There is, I believe, a couple Nyala that walk around as well, that are friends. And what else, Kirsty? What else have you guys managed to habituate in your time of living at the bottom? A slender mongoose and a dwarf mongoose called Christopher. Now, Kirsty, I actually wanted to ask you, do you think, talking about friends of Kirsty and animal friends, do you think Gregory is going to visit you down at the bottom rooms? I want to know if that's Gregory's path, or do you think Gregory is going to shun you now that you've moved down to that area? Because that will break Kirsty's heart if Gregory shun. So Kirsty says she's going to Hansel and Gregory down to the house with strawberries. Naughty Kirsty, no Hanseling and Greteling of strawberries, because otherwise we then get Gimpy the monkey. So those of you who don't know, we also have a vervet monkey called Gimpy. So Kirsty says we need to buy her a mini skateboard that she can then roll down the hill towards the rooms. But Kirsty, you'll have to build a mini ski lift too, so that when she gets to the bottom, basically she can kind of ski down rather, I think. Let's rather go with the ski option. And then when she gets to the bottom, she just climbs on, and then there's a little conveyor belt that takes her back up to the top of the slope, so that she doesn't have to move around too much, that you can do. But yes, Conrad, when he's not fixing dam cams, can maybe get onto the newly designed tortoise ski slope that is going to be installed, just because the girls want visits from our favourite little tortoise, who is estivating at the moment, so no sign of Gregory at the moment, but Gregory I'm sure will come out in the next month or so. Well, Francis, Daryl is going to have an absolute blast when he comes around next, and I say this with a wry smile, because Daryl has a whole Garden of Eden awaiting him that he is undoubtedly going to absolutely pillage when he comes through here. He will go down to those new rooms, but there are nice, new, tender, tasty morsels that have been planted all around camp, including down at the bottom rooms. And Daryl, well, being Daryl, is going to walk in there and just have an absolute field day with those plants, and I wouldn't be surprised that half of them end up going missing over the course of the next few months. But Daryl should be coming around soon. Daryl normally is a summer visitor. He's a bit of a snowbird, likes to head towards the warmer climes. No, he heads more towards the rivers, goes down towards Sabi to the Sabi River, Sand River for the winter months, and then comes up here for the marula season in the summer, and then hangs around and causes havoc. Oh, this is a big surprise. Now, talking about all of the different characters that will grace us with their parents' presence, is what I actually meant to say, is that there is now a team member that has decided to grace us with her presence that is in another country altogether, and sounds like Jamie is up and running in the Mara.
Hello, I am the missing team member in a missing country, just waving hello to some people going past us. A very good evening to all of you, and welcome to the Sunset Safari, somewhat late from my side. My name is Jamie, and this evening Archie is on camera with me, and we've been a little bit busy. We're actually somewhere completely different to where you have been. We're in the Masai Mara, and in fact my favorite corner of the Mara Triangle, right in the western corner. It is probably one of the most beautiful spots in the world, and we're sitting with just a portion of the migration, and we are shortly going to leave said portion of the migration because we are about to get swept away by one of the area's massive storms. And just in case you're wondering where we have been, to give you a bit of an explanation over the sound of the gnu's, we actually went to go and help the conservancy with a young elephant with a wire snare wrapped around its mouth. It was up in these very thick area, and unfortunately we couldn't get them to come out before it started to get too dark, too windy for the chopper to fly, and ultimately started to pose a risk to both the little elephant, because it's still got to wake up and recover from an anesthetic, and then it was a danger to the ground crew as well. So unfortunately, even though we tried, we didn't have any luck. But that's where we've been, just in case you've been wondering. Very sad situations, just one of those issues to contend with out here. Wire snares usually set out for things like the wildebeest, and it probably didn't collect the snare in the triangle. The triangle is patrolled constantly in the search for wire snares. Unfortunately, they are indiscriminate in what they catch, and in this case it caught a little elephant. Never fear though, there will be ground teams searching for it until they find it, and once they do, then they will try once again. Very dangerous type of flying that the Mara Elephant Project did today. It was extraordinary watching them buzz low over the trees to try and scare the elephants out. It would have been impossible to get a vehicle in there. And terribly sad that on top of having a snare injury, the poor little elephant had to go through the trauma of people trying to catch it and dart it and anesthetize it so that the snare could be removed. Because they, of course, have no understanding about what's going on. And these snares tend to increase in number when the migration is in town. So that's where we've been. That's what we've been trying to help with. Unfortunately, this evening, not successful. It just got that little bit too late and that little bit too dangerous. And that is the story of why we are late and where we have been. But you still have an hour left with us, so we're going to try. I don't know if I'm going to make it in time. I'm going to try and get back to the Olololos, because that's where I was before the call came in to come and try and help with this. So we've come all the way down to the western corner of the triangle. We're going to... I was going to say I'm going to try and carry on, but honestly, the traffic in this part of town, absolutely appalling. It's a crossing, look. So the Mara Conservancy acted as soon as they received that call. So sometimes these things don't play out properly. Poofy Poof, you want to know if, as the wildebeest move, are there some that lose their way? Yes, especially little ones, especially when there's some kind of hunt or chase and they're in an absolute panic. The youngsters sometimes do get separated from the rest of the herd. It's usually... Shh, I'm talking. It's a very weird sound. Weird, odd. Don't know what that was. Sometimes the little ones do get separated. It's quite sad to watch them running around calling, searching for the rest of the herd. I do marvel, though, at their ability to get lost, because I have to say that a big wildebeest herd makes enough noise that I can hear it, and their hearing is a lot better than mine. But it does sometimes happen. It's rare, though. Sometimes I think wildebeest just choose to be alone as well. You might see, we drove past a loner on our way in here. Look at these two males bouncing against the crowd. There's one over there, or two over there. Now they've stopped bouncing against the crowd, but there they are, that's them there. That's a male trying to keep track of his females, which is an incredibly tricky task, because they're not all his, and there are plenty of other males without females. That's the reason for his somewhat confused expression. I think he went across there. Oh, is there another male? Is there another male? Yes, there's another male. Oh, chase him away. Get him. And gone. There you go. Lost him. Angie, how far are we away from the river? There he is. We are... So the Mara River cuts straight along the eastern boundary of the Mara Triangle. I'd show you a map, but I have no signal here, so it would be completely useless. I'll tell you what, once I do get to signal range, I'll show you exactly where it is that we are. We're on the Tanzanian border, so the closest point to the Mara River would be, or the closest, the closest point of the Mara River would be probably about, I would say, 40 kilometers as the crow flies. I might even be wrong, it might even be more than that. So we're very far from the river. These wildebeest crossed the Mara at a completely different point to those main crossings that you know about, and they came up from Tanzania from the west rather than from the south and then from the east. So they actually came from the west. So we tend to think of the migration as one big even circle, but that's not exactly how it works. And to the west of us is actually Tanzania. I'll show you on a map because it's a bit difficult to describe without having some sort of visual cue. Did you get all your girls, buddy? Yes? No? Quick head count, all accounted for? Yes? No? Oh, do I know these females? Don't I know these females? Ladies? Ladies? Okay, well, now he's got to keep a lookout for other males. His head on a swivel. One tiny little male wildebeest story in the mass of the migration. Quite entertaining. He can't settle down and graze. His body language tells you all that you need to know. Which way do I look? Which way do I look? Listen behind him. Come on. Any of you fellas got it in you? Perhaps. Take care. Wildebeest don't really, as far as I know, have dewlaps, but they do have something that serves a similar purpose. It doesn't play any role in thermoregulation or anything like that, but they have a beard. And that beard can also, I imagine, serve to protect them from the protect the vital parts of their necks. And when something tries to grab hold, that beard might just act as, I mean, if a lion's going to get it, it's going to get it. But if it's touch and go and the lion can't quite grab onto its neck, that beard might just be that 1% chance that the wildebeest needs to pull away and escape. But as far as I know, I don't see dewlaps on them. I don't think they have anything that is a dewlap, apart from perhaps a thickened layer of subcutaneous fat around their necks. But I'm not aware of a dewlap. If you look, they're all beard. All beard and no chin. That's not true. They've got chins. And lovely fluffy white beards they have too. Okay, I really do need to depart. It's catching up with me. Sorry, Wildies. I've got to come through you. I'll be here all day. Minamoo, I don't know why wildebeest have such skinny legs. I've never asked them. Perhaps they're really self-conscious about their skinny legs. In which case, I sincerely sympathize. Come on, guys. I'm coming through. Thank you. As you were. Minamoo, I don't think they need anything more than the skinny legs that they have. Deceptively powerful, though, those skinny legs. Again, sympathize. They are capable of running exceptional distances, so while they might not be the fastest antelope out here, they come quite close. And they've got phenomenal stamina. I don't know what the reason is for their skinny legs. Perhaps it is to carry them as fast as possible away from lions.
Yeah. It's by us. Okay, now I am trying to find a space in order to see the unkuhumas as they are now mobiling towards the northern side of the game reserve. So at least now I am at the open space where we are going to meet them. I can see they're just opposite to me. The chances of seeing them from here are they're not very far, but I can see they've stopped there. Seems like they are stalking something here. So I want to see what is it that these lions are trying to stalk. Can you see them? Yeah, I can see one here, right in front. So from here where I am, I can see that these lions are not very far away, and I don't know what they're looking at, but they're looking at something. Look at that one. You can see it's very much inquisitive. It's very, very much inquisitive. So I'm just going to try by all means and see what's happening. Because I can also see on top of that tree, I've got also the vulture. I've got the vulture on top and the lions on the ground. Maybe there is one of the prey here in the area, because all of them are stopped and their focus is right somewhere in front of me. And I can see one of them is going very slowly. Oh, I can see what... Oh, no, it's another lion. It's not... It's right here in these bushes. Can you see that one? Yes. So you can see that that one is looking at something. So these lions are looking at something. So the lions can see very, very well. They can see up to 6 to 7 times than we do. You can see they're even lifting up their head just to see far. If you look at the arrangement of the eyes on the lions and other predators, the eyes are located high up so that they can be able to have a binocular vision and see very far. Also helps them to judge a distance. Look at that. You can see how they are walking, that they are all walking very much slowly. And they are looking at something. They are chasing something. So these lions are chasing something. I'm not too sure what is it that they are chasing. And I think they didn't win because I can see that the one which ran first is right now on top of the termite mound. So maybe they have been detected early. They were seeing something here. I didn't even see what it was. So they're all now on top of a termite mound. Lots of vultures. Lots of vultures in the area. I'm not too sure what is happening here. If maybe there is a carcass or they are against maybe one of the small predators, as they were just approaching and suddenly decided to run very fast. But now they are on top of the termite mound looking. And I did pick up a very strong smell of a carrion now. Maybe these vultures has been feeding on something here. Now I can see one of them coming back. So vultures are also good indicators of a carcass in the area.
We're going to have to move to infrared.
So now we're just going to move to infrared so that we can see what exactly is happening here. Look at that. Can see the reflection of the eyes. So the animals that reflect the eyes is because right into their eyes they have got a thick reflective membrane. It's called a tapetum lucidum. When shining a spotlight on them, you will see them reflecting that. So the animals lacking of that reflective membrane, they don't handle the spotlight. They get very aggressive. Animals such as the elephants, when shining a spotlight or a flashlight on them, they get aggressive because they don't have that thick reflective membrane. You can see all these lions are climbing the termite mound. So now I will be here just trying to see what is going to happen next. Let's go to Osana and see Osana enjoying his sleep.
Well, he is enjoying his sleep. I wonder what those lions were doing and I wonder which direction they're heading, actually. I wonder if they're going to be coming up towards this area and towards where Osana is sleeping, because that might ruin his sleep. He was starting to yawn a little bit, so there is signs that he's deciding maybe, just maybe, to think about waking up. There we go, boy. Come on, up you get. Bit of grooming taking place. That's always a positive sign. When you start to see a bit of grooming happening, it generally indicates that maybe, just maybe, there is some sort of process about to take place where we might just see him kind of moving around, which will be very, very nice. I would be quite happy if we got him going down to the pan for maybe a late evening drink. That would be quite cool. So we'll just have to see. He's starting to wake up. So Becky, yes, the short answer. Oh, here comes a little baby bushbuck just behind him. So it hasn't seen him. It's just walking along the road. You can just see it moving there. It's going to be interesting to see if he wakes up, because it's kind of being drowned out by such a noise of the birds that I don't think Osana has spotted it. but it's drifting past now. There, he's now spotted it. You see now, look how he's gotten very alert. We were talking about earlier from going from sleeping to awake. Look at this. Hosana, I think you've missed the bus, buddy. That bushbuck is already quite far past you. But let's see what's going to happen. But we'll get back to the black leopard story. So yes, there has been recorded sightings of black leopards in the Lydenburg area. So that's an area. There goes the little bushbuck in front of the car here. It's just kind of moving its way along. Oh, shame, it's a little bit nervous. It's running down the road much like the other bushbuck did. Here comes Hosana. So Hosana is going to come and chase now. He's going to come right past me. Sorry, I'm in the way. Now I'm not going to move at the moment because Hosana is going to drift past. So he should be coming into the flare shot fairly shortly. Sorry, there he goes. So he's going to run down the road after it. I'm not going to move too much. The bushbuck's gone very far now. He's got almost no chance. He's waited way too long to try and go after it. It's run exactly where the other bushbuck ran earlier, around the perimeter of the fence, down towards the drainage in front of camp. So he's a long way away, and you can see on the flare he's still a lot hotter and much easier to see him than it is in the infrared, that's for sure. But basically where that bushbuck ran is kind of across from him now, but there's a fence and a whole camp in between where he is and where that bushbuck was. And Hosana, I'm sorry boy, but I think you've missed out once again. You were too fast asleep and you've completely missed his bushbuck coming. But he might get this right. Like I say, there's a little path that they're walking in. I don't know, I can't see any others coming at the moment. You never know though, there might be another one coming past, because if there's a small bushbuck like that, there could very well be a mother somewhere close by that is also lurking. But there we go, you can see he's kind of just staring off into the distance at the moment. Like I said, there's a whole lodge between him. You can actually see the wires from the lodge. Now he's looking up the road. Have you spotted another one coming, Hosana? He's licking his chops as if to say he's kind of spotted something. No, I don't think anything's coming. I can't see anything coming down the road. I wonder if this is going to trigger him to go down and have a bit of a drink and assume the position at the actual pan itself, where he can really kind of settle down to be able to kind of hunt and sit in the thickets. What have you seen, Hosana? He's very kind of twitchy and movie. There is a bit of a wind which will be rustling the leaves. It amazes me though how they go from sleeping to up and moving like this. Now I was talking about black leopards and we completely have kind of missed that bus, and I kind of lost my train of thought. But yes, so black leopards were seen in the Lydenburg area. They were seen quite a while ago. So Tara, who used to be here, she did some studies on them in that particular section. I don't know when the last recorded sighting was. It's not a very recent one though, I can tell you that. But in those forested escarpment areas, they reckon that there are recorded sightings of black leopard, but not many. It was very, very few. None here in the Sabi Sands that I know of, or the Kruger Park system, and none in any other parts of South Africa other than that particular area. Here comes another bushbuck. Here comes another one down the road. Now he's going to get seen because he's standing up and it's not facing the right way, but the bushbuck is slowly coming. It looks as though it's spotted something, so just through that gap, Ferg, we should be able to see it. There's the main entrance into the back end of Wetella's kind of delivery area. So with the flare you'll be able to see it much better, that little hot spot. Now Hosana, turn the other way. So Hosana's not facing, yes, there's two of them, you're right, Kirsty. So little baby once again. Hosana, turn. If he just turns, he'll see them, and then he can lie down and he'll be in a prime position. Now, I don't think it's Gogo or Kirst, I'm not sure, it might be, I'm afraid, but Hosana needs to turn to his left and really kind of look properly, because he keeps, oh, there we go, he's been spotted now, unfortunately, by the bushbuck. Can you hear them shouting? Sounds like a dog bark. And Hosana, I'm afraid if you had just sat down and looked to your left before they'd seen you, you would have been able to see them. And now that he's being shouted at, he's going to walk. He's not going to stay where he is. Right, let's follow him down. He's going down towards the pan. So those of you that are watching the dam cam, be sure to keep watching, because you should actually see Dam cam is still not working, I'm afraid. That's not good news. Anyway, okay, we're going to follow Hosana, see where he goes, see what he gets up to. In the meantime, though, let's send you back across to Sydney and the lions and see if they're still stirring or if they've decided to sleep.
I have got the Unkuhuma in action now. I can see that they are conducting some hunting activities. You can see they are all on the road now. And they are spreading. They are not like walking on a convoy. You can see now that they are on a mission. Each one of them is concentrating all direction, all different direction. They want to see what's happening. And I can see one of them is deep right there, leading, looking at something, and one is right on the road. I picked up something. I'm not too sure if it was an alarm call. Yeah, there's an alarm call given there. That one has been spotted. But yes, the Inkuhumas, one of them, if the scrub hare is very close, can possibly take the scrub hare down. But going for a hunt to a scrub hare is a no-go area. This is quite a very big pride, and the scrub hare is nothing, not even something to one of them. So they must have to now take down something big. But I can hear that there is an animal complaining about the presence of these lions. You can even see how they're walking, that they're walking, stopping and concentrating. They are charged now by one of the prey. So I'm just trying to pick up an audio so that you can confirm if it's the animal I can identify. It's not calling anymore. These animals can see, because here where I am, I cannot see anything, but I could see that that animal has been charged by something, how he was coming back. But I'm battling to see what is it that they are trying to stalk here. There we go, you can hear. And Impala is giving them a tough time. Impalas are brave because they know lions don't really go after them. I have seen impalas approaching leopards, impalas approaching lions on several occasions. So impalas, I know, those ones, they've got a very strong heart. They are brave. Let's carry on. So now, while I'm following the Unkuhumas, let's go back to Hosana and see. Maybe Hosana is starting to show, displaying some of the activities at the moment.
Well, he's busy about to check in to Vuyatela camp. There you can see the main deck area where the guests will be having dinner later. And I hope that they're having dinner inside, because it is seriously getting cold now. I made a rookie error and put shorts on this afternoon, and I'm suffering the consequences heavily right now. It really is very, very cold indeed. So poor Hosana, I think, is watching all the bushbuck that have gone into, there's a nyala, that's what he's watching. There's a nyala that's walking around in the camp that he's busy observing. It's quite far away, so our infrared probably won't pick it up, but it should be just there, Fergus, straight ahead, dead center. In the flare you'll be able to actually see it quite clearly. But those are very clever animals that have gone into the camp, that are kind of using the camp for safety. They know that that's going to be much safer than being anywhere else, and so poor Hosana cat, he's not going to be able to kind of go into that area. They are kind of moving away and going deeper into the camp, which is a safety measure that they're taking. Blue 24, no, Hosana hunts all the time. He's a compulsive hunter, but I mean, in the cover of darkness is much easier for him. So he does a lot of hunting in the evenings. But as we saw yesterday with James, he's opportunistic. He chased a squirrel and went after them as well. So, or the prey at him during the middle of the day, and so he does chase. Also, we saw him chasing a nyala at the dam cam the other day. He's chased impalas many times. So he is a busy boy, and he'll hunt whether it's day or night. He'll kind of hunt quite a bit, but it's quite a surreal thing watching a leopard walking along a fence line. It almost looks as though it's a bit kind of zoo-like, but of course it's just the dam. I mean, it's just the the kind of way that they protect the guests here. Obviously, we have a lot of leopards around, and Karula used to spend a lot of time in here, and so that's why, you know, it's up, and it's just to stop leopards kind of moving around inside. Because if there wasn't that fence, he would have been in amongst the decks there and under the decks and all kinds of areas trying to hunt. It's not because he wants to go towards people; he just wants to hunt what's inside there, and that's bushbuck and nyala and the likes. But they are a lot more kind of, I suppose they're not as agile. I mean, a leopard is very agile, and if he really wants to get in there, he'll get in there. I've watched Salahes jump over a fence like this many times around Elephant Plains. She used to just jump over, though it was nothing. And there's some that will even place their paws in between those little fence structures as they go. But we'll try and follow him down a little bit more. I'm not sure where he's off to. Also, Wendy is feeling very ill. She's not going well at all. Kind of feels like she's about to throttle out at any point, which is really not sounding good at all. I'm actually not even sure we're going to get home in Wendy at this rate. But I believe a lot of you are saying you'd love to be in the lodge right now. Well, I mean, how special is that? There's a leopard right here in front of the camp that is about as good as it gets. So you're not really going to get much better than that, than a leopard cruising around at the front of camp and kind of doing its thing. It's pretty special to have that, and it's something about this time of the year that leopards often do this. They walk around in front of camps, and leopards, funny enough, of all of the big cats, are the most at home in front of camps, or in camps. Pretty much any of the Sabi Sands camps, there will be a leopard that will spend a lot of time in those camps. It's kind of the way things go, really. So, you know, Chitwa was Tundi for a long time, and, you know, we know Hosanna spent a lot of time there, Tamba, Tingana. So camps are just part and parcel. They know that there's a lot of prey animals there because of the watered gardens. Good. Well, Hosanna's busy checking things out. He's just kind of watching where everybody's moving around, and so while he checks things out, let's send you back across to the Nkumas on the hunt.
Look at the Unkuhuma now, right on the road. Look at the tip of the ears, black. So those kind of tips are those these lions are using in order to communicate below their predators' hearing and below my hearing as well. Because every time I just see the ears moving. Yes, they serve as a follow me sign, but also when they're hunting, you'll see them twisting their ears every time. You can see that they are about to ambush something. One is going down this direction now, and the other ones are moving up. And this one maybe is the third one. So the one is already in front, one is staying behind, and some are going in there, whereas others are right on top on this road. So I'm not too sure what they are looking for at the moment, but following them is going to show me. I am going to now keep following so that I don't lose them. Because otherwise, if I don't follow them, I might lose them. I don't want to lose them at all. So they are now heading towards the thick bushes. It is always going to be very difficult for me to see the prey, but with this kind of a camera, it's going to assist me to see what's happening. You can see one of them is now slowly approaching. Maybe this one is going to give us the updates with regards to what is happening here. I will read the ears and the movement and the tail, because those are the simple features. You can see that how the head is raised up, and the concentration from the ears is telling me that there is something. Look, now he stopped, trying to listen, looking at the others. So this is telling me that, yeah, something is happening here. So you can see that even if I'm not seeing the prey, looking at the lion itself, this can tell me everything that is happening here. So if I can be able to read the features from these animals, how about the other members of the family? By looking at each other without any voice, they know they can be able to communicate and organize themselves in order to take action about something below the hearing. So I'm just going to pull further now and see if we can find something interesting. FC, I didn't copy that question very well. If you can repeat that for me. Duva, the most intelligent animal, I cannot say is the lions. Why? Because the lions, they work as a group. It's a cooperative decision, collective decision. But when you go to the leopards, leopards are very much clever, well-equipped, flexible body, and when they're hunting, they have to be very much strategic because they hunt alone. Here is simple. So the leopards, they are much more well-sophisticated on hunting than the lions. So you can see they're all now down deep in these bushes. Not very easy to see them, but I'm going to try again and pull forward in order to see if we can again reallocate this beautiful pride. This is my favorite pride. Yes, they haven't had a meal for some time because I can see that their bellies, they are empty. So I'm just trying to check. Maybe I'll be lucky and see them taking down something. I'm not hearing anything. It's very much quiet here. It seems like the animals residing in these areas are not aware of the presence. And the wind, I can promise you, is on their favor because the wind is coming from the direction where I'm heading to, which is the direction where the lions are heading to. So it means animals who are in this area cannot detect their presence from the sense of smell. So they're all gone deep in the thicket. So I'm not seeing anything now. But I can see now the road is caving. Maybe they're going to come back again to the road right in front of me. I think they are somewhere down here. So I'm just going to try and go in here and see if we can reallocate them. So now, while I'm trying to find an approach direction to the Unkuhumas, let's go back to Tristan and see. Maybe Hosana started showing some of the activities at the moment.
No, I'm not with Hosanna anymore, Sydney. We had an issue with the car that I just wanted to double check because I was a bit worried about being able to get down into the drainage and back up again if the way it was shuddering and stuttering, but we sorted it all out. Everything is okay now. So it was just a... Oh, it's doing it again. So it seems like when it loses its revs, it starts this nonsense where it just starts to kind of stutter, which is not very good news. So we'll have to just check that out a little bit later. But we've just come up to quarantine now where it's a little bit flatter, where I can actually get home much easier should we have any issues. And I'm up here also for another reason. Not only that, but I want to try and see if I can find our side-striped jackal pair, because I saw them on Saturday morning before the TV show started. I saw the two of them south of quarantine, so I just thought I'd come up onto quarantine and have a little check around that they're not scurrying about at this time of the evening. It should be about the time to good time for them to sort of come out. Now, as much as I would love to go and help David and Sydney with the flare, there's going to be no ways that I can get Wendy to where they are in any good state, and so unfortunately they're going to have to manfully battle on without me, I'm afraid, because they're all the way up near Hyena Road, and I know what it's like up there. It's not very pleasant at all. It's in fact very unpleasant to drive around in the Hyena Road block, and so if Wendy's not behaving herself, I actually don't really want to take her up that way at all. So teddy bear toy, not really. I suppose there is a slight uptake and increase in the numbers of tourists in certain times of the year. I mean, it's not much though. It's not like the Mara where it's got this massive ebb and flow of tourism whenever the migration is there. Here in South Africa, because game viewing is pretty much, you know, it can happen at any time of the year with trackers and off-roading and all those kind of things. It helps that you can find animals pretty much all the time. But you'll find that the winter months, so from about May all the way through until end of October, is very, very busy here in South Africa. It's normally fully booked, and it's quite interesting because a lot of people try and book these safaris, and they book them, they will phone and be kind of the opinion that they'll be able to go on a safari next week, which is not really the case. Most of these, especially here in the Sabi Sands, a lot of these lodges are booked out a year in advance already. So I know that even at Djuma, it's very difficult to get availability. Apparently the lodge is already booked out until 2020, which is pretty crazy if you think about it. But yes, so I mean the winter months more so. January, February is really the quietest period for us, and the reason for that is, so the first 2 weeks of December, actually, sorry, I'll throw those in there. First 2 weeks of December are generally quite quiet, and then January, February, and that's because it's the hottest, most uncomfortable time of the year. There's a lot of insects, there's rain, and it's not that easy to do things. Often the bush is at its thickest in those periods, and so, you know, it's a tough time of year for anyone to come out here, and so we don't see as many people over those periods as you would see from May until November. So that's kind of the busier part. Whereas in the Mara, you'll find there's the green season, which is generally from October all the way until May, where it still has people coming, but it's very quiet. It's a very different place compared to now when the migration's there, and it's just, you know, it's chaos at the moment, particularly on the national park side. It is very busy. The Triangle is very well managed and is looked after, and the numbers of tourists there are limited in some respects, and that means that, you know, you don't get as much congestion at sightings as you do in the national park. The national park can be a little bit crazy at times, you know, lots and lots of vehicles that come in, and it's because of the spectacle that the migration is. You know, the migration is an amazing spectacle, and everybody wants to come and see it, and so you get some amazing kind of amounts of people coming through. And I actually saw a video today which was very nasty of people getting out their cars and right at a crossing point and disturbing all the wildebeest and lions that were hunting there. It was not very good at all, which, like I say, would never happen on the Triangle side. The Triangle side is very, very good at making sure that they are well looked after and that the crossings are in good condition all the time. Now, considering we've done a bit of a crew tour this afternoon, we've spoken about a lot of crews, I want to see if we can spy our little Maltese poodle, who should be sitting wrapped up warmly in the tent. Just hold on, let's have a look there, Fergus. Do I spot a Maltese? I do. There we go. Now we're going to turn off. Now you see the light there in the distance. One must turn their lights off. There we go. In the distance there is a little light. Now, is that where he's sitting? Yes, there he is. Look, working away, doing his thing. That is the Maltese in action, guys. Now, this is a rare sighting. You can see he likes to be in the thicket and likes to kind of keep himself busy. And there he's using the radio now as well. Hello, James. Good evening. So there's James giving us a Queen wave of note. He's got the Winston Churchill down, doesn't he? The wave that he's just given us looks very, very good. Well done, James. Enjoy your tent. Now Kirsty has just informed James that he called him a Maltese poodle. So now I want to know. No, Kirsty, do not sell me under the bus and say that I called him a Maltese poodle. This was all on you. Now, James has now removed his cap to show us that he is not a hairy beast at all. Yeah, have you seen a Maltese poodle without hair? No, James, I haven't, but clearly Kirsty apparently thinks that she has. So there we go. Right, let's leave James to do his thing. And now, wait, hang on, he's moving now. It seems as though he's going to get out and do something else. Let's have a look, hold on. We're going to... There we go. He's now dancing for us. There we go. We have an Irish dancer, river dancing James in the tent. This is what happens when the Nest cameras go down and he give him too much time off. He ends up doing a little... This is ridiculous. Just not stopping. It's amazing. Thank you, James. That was wonderful. Give yourself a pat on the back. Very well done. There we go. Thank you. Then he's done and off to sleep, you guys. Right, we'll leave him in peace because it's not well in the head, is he? He's certainly an entertainer, that's for sure. Right, now, while we revel in the fact that we just saw the performance of the century from James, let's send you back to the Masai Mara and the backbone of this safari this evening, Jamie Patterson, as she negotiates the darkness on that side.
I'm going to be a contributing member of this team. I can hear a lion right behind me. I couldn't see anything, but I am going to get you a lion. I can hear it roaring. I have to turn around. It's pouring with rain. We tried to... Oh, it's a long story. It's right there. Oh, can I turn around in time? It's pouring. We've got the front down. I can only spotlight out of one side, which is why I've missed it. It's roaring. Oh, I think it's roaring this way. Oh no. Now we have to do a 20-point turn. I have really been a main contributing member to this drive. Oh, this is ridiculous. Oh, surely I can find this lion. It was literally roaring right next to us. I stopped to look at a wildebeest. A very deceased one. Kirsty tells me there's 4.5 minutes left and I might spend it all doing a U-turn. Okay, where are you? I can't see anything. I can't see anything there. I think. There you are. I see you. I see you. I see 2. I see 3. I don't see a way to get to them. We found lions. And it's pouring with rain. It's pouring inside. Oopsie, sorry. This is relatively unsustainable. But we found lions. I have no idea which lions. Hello, lions. Could you roar again for us, please? And just to think, I stopped to look at a dead wildebeest. A very much eaten wildebeest. I didn't in a million years dream it would lead us to some lions, but that just goes to show what you can find in the Mara, even if it's pouring with rain. My right arm is soaked, because I chose while I was driving to check the right-hand side, and not the left-hand side. Turns out the lions are on the left. Oh, she's gonna roar? Or is she just... I think it's the separated olololos. Now, proud cat mama, you want to know how many... Oh, I can see one in the road. She's actually going to come here, so it's okay. You want to know how many vocalizations that lions and lionesses actually have? Well, they have their roar, they have their contact call, and I think it's safe to say that you could distinguish between a contact call between mum and cubs and mum and the rest of her pride. Archie, how are you doing back there? Are you good? Okay, so it's just me who's getting wet, really. None of the equipment, nothing else, just me. That's okay. I'm waterproof. And then you've also got the little ow sounds that the cubs make, which the adults don't make. So what would that be? One roar, one contact call, growls is a vocalization. The sort of soft moans that they make as they're interacting with each other, although I think those would fall under contact calls. Well, it was a very cool surprise in the absolute pouring rain. Are you girls going to roar for us? You've got 2 minutes. Come on, you've already helped me become a vaguely valuable human being to this drive. It's raining on me. Apparently, you can't quite hear the sounds that the lions are making. I apologize for that. I don't know why that might be. But their call is very soft, and it is raining on our roof. Hello, ladies. I think this is the Olololo Pride. And just like that, we have reached the end of our sunset safari, of which the Mara played an enormous part. So I guess it falls on me to say a big thank you to all of you for joining us this afternoon. I apologize for not showing you more. Tomorrow we are going to catch up with the Olololo Pride in the Masai Mara, and who knows what the leopards and the lions have in store for us on Djuma. You know, of course, that you're the most valuable part of our safari. We love hearing from you, we love sharing this with you, and we'll see you tomorrow.